Hey guys, shield. Maybe I'll have to make... Oh, 1 sec.
Bada bing, bada boom.
There is an urban legend in the Philippines that revolves around shopping malls and beautiful young women that go missing inside of these shopping malls. The legend goes something like this. A young couple were in a shopping plaza in this massive mall, and the place it's bustling with people. It's the weekend, there's a lot of people in and out. I mean, there's just activity everywhere. It's supposed to feel safe. I mean, you feel safe when there's so many witnesses, when there's so many people, yeah? I mean, most of the time, right? Now, the couple, they walk into this woman's clothing store. The boyfriend is already bored. She tells him, it's just gonna be 1 second, like, just hold on a second. He leans up against the wall of the store. He's looking at his phone, scrolling through. She's running around the store, picking out a few pieces, and she lets him know, hey, I'm just gonna go try this on in the fitting room, and it's gonna be super quick. We can leave immediately after. He nods again. He does not look up from his phone. It is not until about 10 minutes passes he realizes, wow, she's taking an extra long time right now. What's going on? Maybe her zipper is stuck. Maybe she needs assistance. Maybe she needs my opinion on something. Not that we care, okay? But he makes his way to the back of the changing rooms, and every single one of them has their doors wide open. They're all empty. Sorry, miss, you work here, right? Have you seen my girlfriend? She was just in there changing, trying on some clothes. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. You don't have a girlfriend, or at least not that we know of. You walked in here alone. Why would I walk into a women's clothing store alone? I came in here with my girlfriend. She literally was in that changing room right there. Perhaps you were buying a gift, but sir, you were alone. Nobody has been in the fitting room since this morning. The boyfriend starts to feel agitated, angry, and potentially even confused. He might almost be questioning, wait a damn minute, like, did I really come in here alone? I mean, her birthday is coming up. Was I trying to buy her a gift and I blacked out? Like, this is weird. But then you remember the legend of the half snake, half human. Look, some people believe that this is just human trafficking. But others believe that there are false floors in the changing rooms. Women walk in, they are spied on by two-way mirrors or cameras that are installed into the changing rooms, hidden cameras. If they are chosen, the bottom of the fitting room floor falls out. They're transported into this long tunnel/slide that leads them to an underground hidden maze/tunnel system underneath the mall. From there, they are either human trafficked, according to the urban legend, and never seen again, vanishing into thin air. It would imply that the malls are in on it, okay, including all the retail workers. But more people believe it's actually the half human, half snake. The legend isn't as old as you would think it is. It started in the 90s in the Philippines, and it kind of died down until recently. A case connected a missing woman with the half human, half snake legend. Legend says there is a half human, half snake living in the secret basement of a popular mall near Manila called Robinson's Galleria. There are two versions of this part of the legend. Some say that the owners of the mall know the human snake is in the basement, and at first they thought of all the ways to get rid of this human snake, but then they realized the human snake is what's bringing in the fortune. That's what's making this mall successful, so we need to do whatever it takes to keep the human snake happy. That is our price for fortune. The other variation says the human snake is actually a child of John Gokungwe, the owner of Robinson Malls. The human snake was allegedly the twin brother of Robina, which is John's daughter. So this is a very public family, very wealthy family. They own the malls, and they're saying, no. She actually is not just a daughter. She had a twin brother. He's the half human, half snake. The legend says John's wife had given birth to both human twins, and originally everything seemed very, very normal. Now, as time passes, the boy twin starts to grow stronger, faster, but also kind of stranger. Instead of legs, he ends up growing a snake body. This is the urban legend. Now, the growth of his body was so uncontrollable that within a couple of months, this infant toddler is taking up the space of a living room. Soon, the first floor, there's no way that he can play, live, and exist. And it's not like they can just let this half human, half snake outside. He's gonna be shot dead or held in a science lab somewhere. So now the family is thinking, okay, what do? We gotta figure something out. They also realize a little catch. It's not just the fact that he's half human, half snake, but it's also the fact that this little boy, this little creature, does not like to eat anything but pretty young women. Will not eat eggs, rice, nothing, just pretty young women. Now, it's debatable what he does with these women. Some versions of the urban legend say that he swallows them whole like a snake. Others say that he digs his fangs into their necks and drains them of every drop of their blood, just leaving bloodless, empty shells of dead women all around him. Either way, the family was forced to build a massive compound to house their son that happened to be half human, half snake. And they had to constantly find young women to feed their son. But you cannot just throw a big building in the middle of nowhere and have a bunch of young women disappear that's connected to that building and think that nothing is going to happen. So the only solution that they could come up with that made logical sense was a mall. It would give the family unlimited access to girls, and it would house their son in the underground basement. The fitting rooms were said to have these hidden cameras, and sometimes there would be two-way mirrors that allowed their son to see these girls. He's very particular. He likes them young and pretty. He has a style. Even though he's trapped in the basement, he would pick the ones that he wanted, and with the press of a button inside the fitting rooms, the floor would disappear from underneath them, and they would slide down the tunnel straight into his mouth. Now, I do think that the urban legend would have died down in the 90s had it been just that, but a famous celebrity somehow gets involved in this. Alice Dixon was crowned the Philippines Miss International. So this is like a Philippines beauty contest. And she is now working as an actress. She had this promotional shoot at the Robinson Galleria Mall. And, you know, she's trying on clothes and they're taking pictures of her and they direct her to a department store on the 4th floor. And they're like, hey, use this fitting room to change into your next set of clothes for the next shot. She goes in and she said she couldn't shake this feeling. Someone was watching her. Now, since she had entered this mall, she had felt that, but she brushed it off because she's a celebrity. There must be people watching and, you know, they're taking pictures of her. That's going to draw attention. But even in this fitting room when she's supposedly alone, she feels eyeballs on her. It's weird. There was this growing sense of unease to the point where she didn't even want to change. And boom, it all happened so fast she didn't even have time to scream. The floor to the changing room dropped. She found herself in a slide that led to the basement of the mall. It didn't even look like out of the back rooms. It straight up looked like an abandoned sewage tunnel. A horror movie. She was confronted by a human snake. The human snake was astonished by her beauty for a split second and it froze. It was just soaking in her beauty. So she ran. She ran through the dark chambers of the tunnel and did not stop running. Eventually, she heard a change in the air. She said that she had blacked out at this point. She didn't even know how she got out. Somehow she ends up in the lobby of a hotel nearby, confused on how she even managed to escape. Tabloid headlines and small news articles start coming out about this bizarre near-death experience. People start going nuts. You know, they want to know more. Everyone just assumed that this whole thing was an urban legend. There is no way it actually happened to someone. And there's actually no way that there's a half human, half snake. Come on. The legend only grew stronger when supposedly Alice was supposed to appear on this big talk show to discuss what happened to her. And just as she starts sharing her experience and the truth of what happened, the TV signal falters and the show stops midair. People at home were losing their minds. It felt like someone really, really did not want this story to get out. And the mystery only grew stronger from there. Because, you know, it's like, okay, fine, get Alice to a different show. It's not going to falter again, right? This time maybe do a live audience. Well, it was impossible because out of nowhere, Alice decides to just drop out of show business and abruptly ghost the industry and moves to Canada.
What
She
in
was
the world?
no longer interested in doing interviews about anything, and whispers started speculating that the owners of the mall had compensated her 15 million USD to ensure her silence. Alice would eventually come back to the industry, but it definitely served the urban legend a lot. It just kept going further and further. So the unsettling feeling that people associated with the mall was pretty cemented in stone after that. And in August 2022, like half a year ago, the popular urban legend regained its grip on the Philippines. A young retail employee of the Robinson Galleria went missing in the mall. Her name is Jovelyn Galleno, and her disappearance would stir up conspiracies of a human snake lingering in the mall, allegations of a human trafficking ring, and a very, very mysterious tarot card reader who is said to have gotten to the truth of what happened to Jovelyn, predicted everything correctly before the police did. How did the tarot card reader know what happened to her? Did it have anything to do with the urban legend? Let's dive in. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. Since we are covering another Filipino case today, we had our wonderful Filipino researcher help with gathering of the facts, understanding the public's response, and even just trying to grasp the complexity surrounding this case. She actually resides in the Philippines, so I think that she had a really good understanding of just generally how people felt, what this urban legend was about. And I hope that this will be a comprehensive deep dive on this very, very frustrating and very puzzling case of Jovelyn. But as always with international cases, let us know if there's anything that was missed or anything lost in translation. So with that being said, let's get into it. Have you ever used or gotten a tarot card reading?
When I was in middle school, it was trendy in China.
Oh.
Yeah, all the girls has a stack. And
They read your future, okay?
Yeah,
what did they tell you?
I think they predicted everything, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, you're going to meet a Korean girl,
Yep.
and she's never going to stop talking. So a lot of people refer to tarot cards as a soul map. You have a stack of cards that all mean something, whether it's about your love life, work life, or family. And actually researching about tarot cards makes me want to get into tarot cards. So you pull randomly from a deck of these very specific cards, and you think about the questions in life that you want answered. Then you start interpreting these cards. And this is oversimplifying the beauty of tarot cards. I clearly don't read tarot cards. I do find it fascinating. Now, I will say, typically, and I've been vocal about this, I hate when tarot cards or psychics are involved in true crime cases. I just think that it's a lot more pain than it is productive. But this case is particularly interesting because the tarot card reader is spot on with practically everything. Now, obviously, it could have gone the complete opposite way, but it was interesting. So I did go on Reddit and I did look up tarot cards, and a lot of people who regularly use tarot cards say that it's just a way to meditate. You're not trying to base life decisions off the cards. You're not trying to figure out your future. It's not really something that tells you what's going to happen to you. In fact, it lets you have a deeper understanding of oneself. So you're asking a question. There's almost this gut feeling of what you want the cards to read. Or it pulls out a card that makes you self-reflect in a different perspective that you might not have done before.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that makes me want to get into tarot cards.
Yeah, so it's just a medium for you to think
Yeah.
or let your mind wander. And
people say that it's not really about talking to a spirit like people make it out to be, or predicting the future, or even like trying to get you to do a life decision off of it. It's genuinely just meditation, they said. Instead of journaling, you're just asking yourself these questions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, and I feel like there's actually science behind that.
Yes, because it might be a fresh perspective to these problems or obstacles you're facing. And the cards are vague enough that it applies to a lot of things, so you start wandering with your mind. In that sense, very cool. But when the news broke that a young, beautiful 22-year-old mall employee went missing in the Robinson Galleria, social media was all over this case. A concerned citizen took it upon herself to seek the guidance of a renowned tarot card reader in the Philippines, Jay Costura. Now, she is very famous. She is very well beloved. She is on YouTube. Yeah, she does a lot of these tarot card readings for big cases and just things in general. So the tarot card readings of what happened to Jovelyn, the missing woman, were posted on YouTube. I know, very controversial, all of the above. But the readings were fascinating. Jay Costura went into detail about what the cards revealed. This is like literally right after the 22-year-old goes missing. Nobody has any clue what happened. All people know is that she went missing in a mall, and Jay starts doing the tarot card reading. And I just want to make it very clear. The tarot card readings went the best way possible in this scenario, if you can even call it that. But there are countless cases where people have predicted what happened so publicly with so much conviction, and it turned out to be wrong. And this is happening in the US as well, okay? Or it just turned out to cause more distress amongst the victim and their families. So just keep that in mind. The cards were laid out on the table. There were these beautiful, like, luminescent gold-colored cards, and the light was reflecting off of them beautifully. They felt very rich. They felt very tangible. And it just kind of contrasted sharply with the air of mystery and anxiety. It just felt very anxious in the video when you watch it. Now, a few of the cards were chosen, revealed, and analyzed. Both women, Jay Costura and the concerned citizen, looked very stressed. They looked very focused. Now, this case at this point had been a blank slate. 22-year-old Javelin had walked into the mall for her shift. She was a sales lady. She finished her shift, texted her family that she was hungry, vanished. We don't know if she left the mall. We don't know if she's still in the mall. Did she leave alone? Did someone take her home? Did they say that they would drive her home? Did she get on a bus like she normally does? Nobody knew anything. I'm talking blank slate. She just vanished. And of course, there's more pressing questions like, is she still alive? What happened? Can we rescue her? Jay read the cards and emphasized the belief that Javelin Galeno was still alive. Jay continued to flip the cards and studied them and talked to the viewers at home. She presented a compelling narrative. She stated that the cards suggested that Javelin was still alive, being held captive by powerful individuals or individuals who had power over her. They were authority figures of some sort. She looks at the cards and says, see, this is what I was afraid of. Here I see a substantial amount of money, which can mean that her captors may have profited off of her. Jay went on to continue. And this part is interesting. But she states that the abundance of red cards compared to black cards suggests to her that there was a surprising sense of lack of envy or jealousy in Javelin's life, meaning that Javelin had a very tranquil energy that emanated off of her, suggesting to Jay that Javelin's disappearance was not due to an angry friend or partner. It was not a crime of passion where someone just hated her, despised her, was jealous of her, or someone was upset with her or had something against her. It seemed almost random. Or maybe they just genuinely wanted her because of the way she looked, or her age. Jay also noted that there was no card that features the Ace of Flowers, which Jay associates with water and a change of location. She believes strongly that Javelin was still in the confines of the island. Now, this was the very first session that was posted online. These are the details that she reads from her tarot cards. Another secondary session was posted with the same concerned citizen and the tarot card reader, and this time they had a new deck of cards. The new deck still indicated to Jay that Javelin was alive, and the new card suggested a sense of betrayal in Javelin's case. A deal or agreement appears to have been made, potentially involving Javelin. She is being held against her will by someone or a group of people, and despite being held captive, the card suggests that she's being very well taken care of. Jay stated the card suggests that Javelin possesses the strength to escape if she can just discover a way. Jay continued to state that she senses the captors, or at least some of the captors, are considering releasing Javelin, but the heightened attention surrounding her case complicates their decision. Jay reiterates that although Javelin's disappearance in her belief is premeditated, it's not driven by anger, animosity, or jealousy or revenge. It is unrelated to romantic relationships or personal attachments. She believed Javelin to be in close proximity to her home. She states that the captors wanted to take Javelin somewhere else, but unseen obstacles prevented them. She stated that she saw Javelin entering a car willingly and that she had left the mall willingly. She concludes her session by saying, the individuals holding Javelin captive are likely part of a syndicate or possess significant influence and power over her. She also states that there are more things that the cards have revealed to her, but because of the ongoing investigation, she doesn't want to release that information. Now, I believe in the Philippines, tarot card reading is generally more accepted and believed. So there was some pushback of, oh, I don't think we should be doing this. But most people who were listening, I don't think that they took it so seriously that they were like, oh my God, the syndicate, we got to bring down the syndicate. It was more of, they listen to this and they feel more connected to the case. They feel more passionate about this case, which I think ultimately did lead to positive things. So the public starts putting pressure on the police to do something, find something, take action. So let's start with what we do know. The night of August 5th, 2022, Jovelyn's mom was home with Jovelyn's two sisters, Jonalyn and Jocelyn. So Jonalyn, Jovelyn, and Jocelyn, okay? They're all hanging out downstairs waiting for Jovelyn to get home from her shift at the mall so that they could cook up some dinner. Jonalyn, her sister, was scrolling through her phone when it buzzed. Jovelyn. Hey, what are we eating for dinner? Mom, Jovelyn wants to know what's for dinner. Mom's confused. Wait, I thought she was bringing home food. Or at least that's what she said this morning, but... okay, maybe she's tired. Forget it. Just tell her to come home. We'll have something. So the mom gives the sister some money and sends her out to buy some takeout. She goes out and she texts Jovelyn on the way saying, hey, I'm grabbing food. Is there anything particular you want to eat? Jovelyn never responds. The sister brings back the food and the family waits around the table. Like the food is waiting, it's hot, it's steaming. They're sitting around and they're like, okay, any minute now she's going to be bursting through the door and we're all going to feast on some dinner. Maybe she's working overtime? No, but usually when she's working overtime at the store, she texts us to let us know that she's going to be running late. Either way, they decide to eat without her. But even when they were done, Jovelyn was still not home. They kept trying to message her throughout the entirety of the dinner and no response. And finally, they called her, which I imagine that they were avoiding calling her in case that she was working. And the phone rang. Someone picks it up. Hello? Hello? Whoever was on the other line did not say anything. It was silent. There wasn't a single word, a single noise, nothing. It was really unsettling. Maybe it's in her pocket and she accidentally picked it up and she's busy? They couldn't hear clothes rustling or inventory being put away, so they didn't really know what to make of it. That night, it was really hard for any of them to get sleep without Jovelyn being home. It just wasn't like her. The next morning, they wake up and Jovelyn is still not home. So Jovelyn's mom and her two sisters, they rush to the mall and wait for it to open, hoping that Jovelyn is there. Maybe something happened and she had to sleep overnight. Maybe, I don't know, okay? They're coming up with all these reasons in their head because that's the best case scenario. But when she's not there, they ask any of her colleagues, do you know where she's gone? This doesn't make sense. They have no clue. In fact, they turned that store upside down. There was no sign of Jovelyn anywhere. There was no signs of struggle. There was no signs that anything happened last night. That morning, she would officially be registered a missing person. At just 22 years old, Jovelyn Galleno had vanished. The police are going to try and convince us that she didn't just vanish, she ran away, or she willingly got into a strange man's car because she was just crazy like that. Even if that were true, you should still be looking for her. But in the case of Jovelyn, it just didn't make sense. Jovelyn was working as a sales girl at the Robinson Mall, and her boss had only great things to say about her. She was consistently on time. She delivered great performance. The customers loved her. She was polite, eager. Literally, what is there not to love? When she wasn't working, she was studying criminology at the local college. Her dream, her ultimate dream, was to become a police officer. And I imagine that if she became an officer, she would not fail the families of victims like the police would fail her family. Everyone who knew Jovelyn said her whole life could be summed up into two things. She had this very strong, unbreakable sense of familial unity. Like she was the type that would do anything for her family. As the eldest sister, she would take on odd jobs while she's studying in college. She wanted to make sure that her sisters never had to work for food or were eating well. It's like she had more hours in a day, more days in a week than most people. On Sundays, she never missed church service. Everyone described her to be just so utterly wholesome. She's the type of student or daughter that other parents would be like, why can't you be more like Jovelyn? Please. She never went out drinking, never went out clubbing. She was dedicated to her goals and nothing was going to get in her way, like even fun. The only time that she stayed out late was when she had to stay after closing to help with packing and inventory. But even then, she never came home after 9 p.m. She was actually one of the odd young people that really found comfort in just staying home. She was very happy to stay home. Even her cousins, Leobert and Jovert, were both in their 30s. If they ever got hungry, these are full-grown men in their 30s. If they ever got hungry, if they ever couldn't afford food, they went to Jovelyn, to 22-year-old Jovelyn. She would cook for anyone that she cared about. Not only would she cook for you, she would sit you down, make you feel warm, and ask you about yourself. Is everything okay? She loved like a good, heartfelt conversation. And now she was just gone. She just vanished. And this whole family, they're like, we have a giant hole in our hearts. Like, what are you talking about? The cousins are begging for her return. Her sisters are distraught. Her mom is beside herself. What is going on? Also, side note, another thing that was very, very rare for Jovelyn's age is that she knew that ego could destroy relationships and careers. So she never let her ego get in the way of resolving a fight. So everything is just saying that she's not a pushover. She is very, very strong-minded, has a good head on her shoulders, and it just doesn't make sense. I imagine working very early on and having this like financial burden of caring for her family was a big part of growing up early, but you know, one day she was gonna be an amazing, fair, trustworthy police officer. One that would put these police officers working her case to shame. It felt like they had genuinely no idea what the hell they were doing. Jovelyn is reported missing, and the police start their investigation at the mall, the Robinson Mall, because that is Jovelyn's last known location. You know, their plan makes a lot of sense. They would go through the CCTV footage, hoping to catch a glimpse of her movements. At least that way they could figure out what exit she took. Maybe she ran into a friend. Maybe she ran into someone in the mall. Or maybe she was taken in the mall. Like, we don't know. We got to go through the CCTV footage. But when the police arrive at the mall, the owners are like, well, we don't want to help. We don't want to give you the CCTV footage. Now, this is where the urban legend comes into play. I don't think that the public were coming into this guns a-blazing at the mall, like, oh my god, remember the urban legend of the mall? Like, it's the mall. They just had the same reaction as the police. Okay, she probably left the mall and then ran into foul play after she left, right? Because the mall is so public, it's so bright. What's going to happen in there? We got to get the CCTV footage, see if she left with someone. Who did she leave with? What exit did she take? At least that gives us a direction that she might have been going. But then suddenly, the mall doesn't want to give CCTV? That's weird. Why would they not want to help unless they had something to hide? The urban legend now started getting brought up with this case. Now, the urban legend is what threw this case into social media spotlight. People could not stop talking about how creepy the mall was, how her disappearance must be connected to the human snake. Others argued there was never a human snake, it's human trafficking. Regardless of what you thought, public enemy number one right now was the police and the mall. You know, a lot of people were saying, what do you mean, officer, that the mall said no? Like, since when do you guys take no for an answer? As a regular civilian, you ask me to do something, I take no, bad things happen to me, but this big, fancy mall, they can say no to you all the time? People commented, a life is at stake and this is how much effort you're putting into it. Someone said no, so now you're done investigating. I'm sorry, is the mall more powerful than the police? This is kind of crazy, guys. Now, side note, Jovelyn disappeared in Puerto Princesa, which is a beautiful tourist island, like a tiny little island that attracts a lot of local and foreign tourists. So news of her disappearance made a lot of people adverse to vacationing there, and that is what made police get more involved in the case. So originally the police were like, sorry, we can't get the mall CCTV footage, so like, case is over, bye, everybody go home, right? Now, the public attention is what made the police get more invested in this case. They realized that the public was not just going to forget about her disappearance or her vanishing, and if they didn't solve it, nobody was going to go to the mall. Nobody was even going to come visit the island that relied heavily on tourist economy, on tourist money. So the government bosses, all of the officials, the people that are basically the bosses of the police, they're like, you need to figure this out. And with Jay Costora, the tarot card reader, along with other high-profile names getting involved, this case was getting bigger by the second. Not even by the day, by the second. Now, side note, there were a lot of theories forming. Many people believed that yes, indeed, it had something to do with the mall. Something very strange happened in that mall, and since the owners are wealthy, they're able to stand up against the police and refuse to give CCTV footage. Other small theories started to emerge. There were rumors that Jovelyn was having an affair with her boss's husband. Listen, I don't even know where this came from, and I don't even know how it started. But Her manager's name is Karen, and people said that Karen had found out that her husband was hanging out a lot with Jovelyn, and instead of leaving him, Karen became overwhelmed with jealousy and emotion. She channeled all that hatred, all that anger towards Jovelyn instead of her own husband, and she thought, as long as she disappears, I can have my husband all to myself. People on social media went so crazy with this theory that news stations wanted to interview Karen, the manager. She came out and she denied having any resentment towards Jovelyn. She said, in fact, I've only ever spoken highly of her. Like, you can see all of my other interviews. You can ask anybody. We had a good relationship. She has a great work ethic. She's dedicated to the job. She was one of my best employees. But people overanalyzed this interview and stated that she was way too emotionless. If a manager genuinely liked your employee, wouldn't you be emotional? Jovelyn's sister chimed in and said, well, I was able to log into my sister's Facebook account after she vanished, and I actually did see messages pertaining to the boss's husband. Jovelyn was talking to a friend of hers on Facebook about how she wanted to quit her job. Jovelyn said, I don't like it anymore, and the friend asked her why. Jovelyn responded, my boss's husband messaged me out of nowhere regarding our products and merchandise one night, and when I came to work the next morning, my boss asked me why I was talking to her husband. So I clarified what was going on, but honestly, that was that. Like, nothing happened, nothing went on, and it just, like, the whole thing, it just seemed like it threw off Jovelyn. She felt very uncomfortable, but there was nothing to indicate that Karen or her husband felt any type of way about it. So again, a lot of confusing rumors that aren't really propelling the case forward or helping in finding Jovelyn. Now, around this time, Raffy Tulfo, this massive TV personality and journalist and now a senator in the Philippines, he starts getting involved. He starts putting pressure on the officials. He even had the major of the police force on his show where he just grilled him for answers.
Meron screen grab from the CCTV, the victim going inside Robinson's Mall, pero papalabas niya ng Robinson's Mall, wala. So yun po siguro susi. Would that be the reason?
Sabi ng PNP, meron na silang bagong nakita na lead.
The major just kept repeating the same responses over and over. It sounded like he was given a list of answers that were PR friendly, that were appropriate, and he just kept repeating those. I don't want to hinder the investigation. We're still keeping that in mind. We're still investigating the leads. We're still trying to figure it out. Raffy wasn't having any of it. He kept pushing, and since Raffy was this high-powered senator/journalist, the major was actually terrified of him. He was in kind of a pickle. He had to try and not hinder the investigation or make himself or the police force look bad, but also respond in a way that Raffy would be satisfied with. It was not a good position to be in. Every answer just made it seem like the major and the police were hiding something, or that they just were the most incompetent people running this case. Overall, situation. Raffy Tulfo kept pushing the major to tell them if they were able to get the CCTV footage from the mall and what was seen on there. The major kept brushing off this question, saying that he couldn't say anything that could jeopardize the investigation. But Raffy kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing, and with enough pressure, the major stated, you know what? I'll give you my personal theory. He stated that he saw a figure that appears to be Jovelyn exiting the mall in the CCTV footage that they were able to obtain. Allegedly, she leaves through the employee door and gets picked up by an unknown sedan. He states that they are looking for the sedan right now. Now, the whole energy of that statement shifts the entire conversation. It shifts the whole investigation. The major made it seem like Jovelyn willingly got into some stranger's car. Even the way that he was saying it was just very, why would she get into an unknown man's car? Maybe she ran off with a boyfriend. It's almost like that kind of route it seems like they're digging into. And since she's 22, she's an adult, she can legally make her own decisions, he almost made it seem like she's just this 22-year-old who doesn't care if her family is stressed out or worried for her and just wanted to go hang out with her boyfriend. That is the implication of this. It wasn't even the sedan itself that was the explosive news. So Raffy starts questioning the validity of this statement because this is the first time he's hearing of it, and it came out of left field. And again, with enough pushing, the major admits that he just made this up to say something, to say anything. Not a good look.
So he didn't see her leaving?
No. He was just like, I knew it was going to be a dead end, so I just wanted to say something, anything to get you off my you can expect
What in
how
the world?
the people felt about it. It seems like the major would rather lie than be truthful that they have nothing so far. So Rafi gets another police officer on the show. Starts grilling him too. It looks like the police officers work slower than turtles here. What's going on? Still no good response. The saddest part was Jonalyn, the sister, was on standby listening to everything. And she finally got on air and said, please, sir, I need to clarify something. The sister states that she's upset that her sister is being portrayed as this indecent girl that would run into the car with her boyfriend and run off without caring for her family. She kept clarifying that she was able to gain access to her sister's Facebook accounts and there was no romantic messages, not even flirtatious conversations with anyone. Also, side note, how sad is that? The minute a girl is in a relationship, people are like, well, no point in looking for her now. She probably ran away with a boy. Or the minute someone struggles with mental health, people are like, well, no point in looking into their clearly suspicious, weird, bizarre death because they were probably depressed. It's crazy. So Javelin's sister passionately argued, please, she doesn't entertain any men, sir. She is focused on work and her studies. She just wants to graduate. So if you could ask anyone in the neighborhood, you could ask all of our neighbors, conduct a survey if you must to see if I'm telling the truth. You have to trust me. A lot of people sympathize with Javelin's sister. I mean, it's frustrating when people paint your loved ones to be someone that they're not. And even if she did have a boyfriend, it's frustrating that something like that could make her life less valuable. Rafi agreed. He went on to grill the head of the person in charge of the local police department, and he straight up just asked him, like, what is going on? Why did you lie? So the major says, I was just tired. So you mean to tell me when you guys are tired, you can just start making up stories and telling lies? And Major, adding insult to injury, why do you guys keep all implying that Javelin has a boyfriend or a suitor? We have Javelin's sister who says Javelin would never entertain any guys, so why do you keep imposing that her case is not an abduction and that she got into a car willingly? Before he could even respond, Rafi let the emotions get the better of him and he exploded on the major and he said, do I have to go to the headquarters of the National Police Department personally to request to talk to the chief of the entire National Police Force so that I can put you in the hot seat? You better do your job and get it together or else I will put you all under Senate hearing. Even that city director of yours, I will bring to the Senate. Once my patience runs out, I swear I will have you all investigated because you're all working too slow. I want answers by tomorrow. Is that good? It was really, really intense. Now, Rafi did work very closely with Javelin's family and even provided them with a new place to live, financial assistance to help start their own business because Javelin was the sole breadwinner. Rafi even paid the family's monthly bills at one point, and the family, the netizens, Rafi, everyone was so frustrated watching these interviews. It felt like someone was hiding something and they thought that you were too dumb or too powerless to do anything about it. It was such blatant lies. It was like a slap in the face. It was so shady. But there is another perspective to this. Some people felt like Rafi was doing a bit too much. So they were saying, it's one thing to draw public attention to a case and demand answers from the authorities that are being paid by taxpayer money. That's one thing. It's another thing to keep pushing people to a point where they could potentially jeopardize the investigation. So it's also a very tricky situation for the journalist because the journalist is expected to get answers, and if they don't get answers they have to wonder why are we not getting the answers. But at the same time, you got to use some reasoning, you got to use some nuance, and there's got to be some common sense and some mutual understanding. I do think that the major was shady, but I don't think he was shady to that point. I think that there must have been a part of him that genuinely was like, I truly don't know what to say. I'm like getting grilled so hard right now and we've got nothing, but I can't say that we have nothing. And then I can't say anything that would jeopardize the investigation. So it was just a very tricky situation. So in another instance, Rafi was interviewing another police officer, and the officer mentioned a piece of the CCTV footage where there was this visual presence of one of those giant metal cargo containers that are used to like transport goods. So maybe they were in like the cargo section of the mall and they're bringing in all these goods, and it was near the employee entrance. The police officer stated something along the lines of, she went inside the metal cargo container. Now, people are thinking, is this the next big lead? People were freaking out. Rafi was freaking out. How come we're just hearing about this? A metal shipping container? Are you kidding? Who owned the container? Why would she have gotten into one? That doesn't make sense. It's not part of her job description. Rafi immediately hung up with the officer, called the officer superior, who clarified, wait, no. She went around the metal cargo container. To which Rafi responded, one of your men said that she went inside the container. That's why I'm asking you, what is inside? And if anyone has already checked who owns the cargo container, good grief, like that's what I'm asking you. Now, viewers at home, there is some nuance to this. Viewers at home were feeling a little bit frustrated because this one wasn't purely police incompetence or secrecy. The officer in question that mentioned the metal container, he spoke a different dialect. So he said went. But the way that he used the word in Tagalog made it seem like she went in, but it could have easily meant if she went around. But instead of clarifying, because it was clear that he didn't speak the same dialect, instead of Rafi being like, wait, can you clarify? Did she go in or around? He just kind of like hung up and was like, okay, let me call the superior and make it a whole big thing. And everyone was like, that didn't need to be a big thing, you know? And then, you know, he's calling out police incompetency and secrecy, but then people were like, this one just feels like you made something really big for an explosive news segment, but it wasn't that big of a deal. People weren't happy about it, but as social media discourse was ramping up, so was the investigation, believe it or not. The investigators were able to get through the security footage of the mall, and they found Jovelyn. There was clear evidence that she made it to work that day, so okay, good. But there was no evidence that she left the establishment at the end of her shift. Why does it not show that? The mall stated there was a local power outage, so all of their lights and power and cameras shut off. Locals disputed this and said, we did not have a power outage that night. So what are you saying? And coincidentally, it happened the same time that Jovelyn was leaving the mall for her shift. It felt really, really, really sinister. So people kept bringing up the human snake. People kept bringing up human trafficking. There were just rumors that the mall owners had to deal with the police to ignore cases like this so that they can feed their human snake or do some sort of underground activities. I mean, people also wondered, what if this was news planted by the mall's competition, SM Super Malls? They're like the biggest competitors of Robinson malls. What if they wanted Robinsons to go down, so they keep pushing this mall narrative?
This is like the Chinese school kids.
Yes.
It's like once someone go missing, I feel like school or the mall, they should be the number one people on top of this.
Yeah,
this
not the police.
Yeah, this should be hurting them the most.
Exactly. I do think it's weird when the establishment that's getting hurt the most, that is known for being super capitalistic, is suddenly not capitalistic. Because capitalism would mean that you want to distance yourself from this.
No, they think distance is the way to go. Like suppress it. Let's just get rid of the story. But instead, that only fuels more online discussion and more conspiracies.
It's so weird. Wouldn't you rather just want to show the footage like, hey, she left the mall. We got nothing to do with it. Bye.
Release that to everyone.
Have fun, everyone.
Yeah. So now it's like, what's going on with the security, the cameras, and it just sounds more and more and more fishy. They should come out and provide everything they have.
Yeah. They should be working with the investigators excitedly, like aggressively hunting down investigators.
Unless they are
doing something.
Exactly.
So people are going back to the tarot card readings and trying to connect the dots. Jay, the tarot card reader, said that there was a deal made even before Jovelyn had disappeared. So maybe the mall and the police had a deal. Maybe the mall had a deal with the human snake or some sort of shady organization or syndicate like Jay had alleged. Now, on top of that, Jay had stated that the people holding her captive were authority figures that had power. The mall owners have power. The police have power. Government officials have power. Nobody could understand how there was no footage of her leaving the mall. But they did provide, the mall does come out and provide some records. This is like an employee login and logout records where you log out at that time and you sign. And it showed Jovelyn logging out of her shift and out of the mall. But this could have easily been, someone could have signed for her. It did nothing to calm the public. It just felt very shady. Like, how is this good enough? Like, you really think we're going to be okay with this piece of paper? All these coincidences were making people feel very nervous about ever going shopping or even trusting the police. And then out of nowhere, a store outside the mall said that they had footage of Jovelyn outside of the mall after her shift at work. They said the CCTV footage showed Jovelyn outside waiting for a bus home. Police state that they studied this footage and believed it to be Jovelyn, and they showed it to Jovelyn's family, and they were all confirmed that it was Jovelyn. Everyone, except for Jonalyn, this is a sister that has been outspoken and has been kind of the family representative in the news. So it's not like she's going against her family. I would say that the family is kind of more behind her. She said that she was skeptical about this video. She said that the only reason that her family originally confirmed that it was Jovelyn was because they felt pressured by the police. But the more that they watched this footage over and over and over again, they felt like they could not confidently say that that was their sister. But as she's voicing her concerns, police stated, nope, it's her sister. She's mistaken. It's her sister. Because there were witnesses who saw her on the bus. This stopped people dead in their tracks. What do you mean, saw her? So all of a sudden, this grainy footage of her outside the mall shows up because there's no other evidence that she left the mall. Suddenly, we have footage. And then you suddenly have people that came forward and said that, you know what, actually, I did see her. Why did they not come forward prior to this when everyone on social media was still talking about it? It's not like the case just exploded. So I don't know. The whole thing seems very, very fishy. But this was the strongest lead that the family was given. So they try everything. The public was able to find the driver of the bus, and he gave very wishy-washy answers. He said he had no clue if Jovelyn ever got on his bus because he focuses on driving rather than the passengers. Everything about it just felt weird. Like all of a sudden, people saw her on the bus. All of a sudden, she's on a bus. And then another family tragedy struck. Two of Jovelyn's cousins, do you remember Leobert and Jovert? Both in their mid-30s were involved in an accidental stabbing involving each other. Trust me, it gets weirder. The stabbing would result in both of them being jailed for Jovelyn's kidnapping and murder.
Wait, slow down. They stab each other?
Yeah. And it would result in them going to the hospital and then later to prison for Jovelyn's disappearance. Let me explain, okay? Let me explain. Leobert and Jovert had gotten drunk one night. This is like after Jovelyn disappears. And somehow they enter into this super heated argument, allegedly about Jovelyn. One of them was injured and required hospitalization. Now, it was reported to the police once Jovert came to the hospital because they're like, you were clearly stabbed with a knife. Like, you can't tell me otherwise, so we're going to have to report it to the police because that's a knife fight. So both of them get brought into the police station, and Leobert, one of the cousins, starts to confess. His confession would rip his entire family apart, or whatever was left of his family. It was bad. Leobert stated that he and Jovert planned to kidnap, assault, and kill Jovelyn. Their own cousin, their own flesh and blood that they grew up around. They said they planned it for weeks and that they finally did it. The reason that the accidental stabbing occurred was because Leobert felt so guilty about what he did. It was eating him up on the inside. He just wanted to turn himself in, clear his guilty conscience, give Jovelyn's mom some peace of mind. He wanted to stop living his life looking over his shoulder constantly for the police. He tried to tell Jovert one drunken night, hey, buddy, I want to tell the cops. Jovert was pissed. He's like, we agreed to do this together. You can't just turn yourself in because then I got to turn myself in. I'm not ready to go to jail. You can go to jail by yourself. Why should I have to go to jail? So he grabs a knife and threatens to kill Leobert. Leobert pushes him and attempts to defend himself, and it resulted in Jovert accidentally stabbing himself with the knife. They had been brought in, Jovert had been subdued, and Leobert felt like now that he was no longer around Jovert, he was no longer scared for his life, he could confess. He stated that he was overcome with remorse and guilt. This freaked out a lot of people for a number of reasons. The small one being, Jay's tarot card reading stated that the people who took Jovelyn were authority figures. In the Philippines, it's much like the rest of Asia. You are grown up to show cousins, especially that are 10 years older than you. You have to show them respect. They are also your authority figures. No one had thought of it like that. People are like, wow, we kept thinking about government officials and police officers when it could really be the person closest to you. Mainly everyone was freaked out though because these were her cousins. What motive would they have in kidnapping her? Leobert was asked that, and he said it all started a few months before she vanished. He and Jovert kept talking about how Jovelyn was so pretty, how beautiful she was, and at first it started as like a fun family banter, like, oh my god, our cousin is so pretty. But they said that they became fascinated by her looks, and they said that they were even more intrigued by her contrasting tomboyish manner. I don't know what they're trying to say with that. Something about her was irresistible, Leobert said. Now, at first, it starts off as a simple joke. They were joking, I don't know how this is a joke or how it's funny, how they would kidnap her and what they would do to her if they could kidnap her. And for about a month or so, this is how they planned it. The more they talked about it, the less of a joke it seemed, and the more feasible, the more excited they got for this plan. And then one evening, they put their plan into action. They said that they knew where the bus would drop off Jovelyn near the house, and it was very dark. She would get off alone, and they would forcibly grab her. Now, if this is true, I cannot imagine the emotions that she went through. First, being grabbed, the fear, the terror, and then when you look and you see it's your cousins, maybe you have this moment of like a release of tension because you probably assume that they're playing a joke on you. And then that fear comes rushing back when you realize they're not. This is not a joke. They stated that they grabbed and restrained Jovelyn, causing her to lose consciousness. Leobert said they dragged her to a grassy area in their hometown, subjected her to rounds of horrific essay by her own 2 cousins, her own family members, and Leobert stated that she never gained consciousness ever again. They realized that she was dead, which was kind of their plan because there's no way that they could do this to their cousin, of all people, and expect her to not say anything to anyone. Leobert said they dragged her lifeless body to an area with even taller grass and less foot traffic. They dug a shallow grave, buried her. They said that they scattered her belongings through the field as an attempt to hide the evidence. And apparently this was their masterful plan that took them over a month to come up with. The confession of the crime is strange, and it doesn't sit right with a lot of people. But either way, August 23rd, 2022, just 18 days after Jovelyn vanished, Leobert led the police to the locations where he and Jovert allegedly hid Jovelyn's body. This is where things get puzzling because at this point people are thinking, I don't really believe this confession. Maybe the guy's on drugs, maybe he's drunk, maybe he's like having a mental breakdown, because this doesn't make sense. Who can really do this to their cousin? Jovelyn had been missing for 18 days, and he pointed out where her body was buried. The level of decomposition on her body was extremely severe. She was completely skeletal at this point. There were no remaining soft tissues, nothing. It was nearly impossible to do a comprehensive autopsy. There was no way to even prove that she had been essayed before her death because of how advanced the decomp was at this state. A lot of forensic experts who saw the crime scene photos also stated that the bones almost looked a little too clean. I mean, yeah, you could argue that being in a humid tropical environment could lead to faster decomposition, but something about the scene felt oddly staged. That's how the public felt. That's how experts felt. Another puzzling revelation was just how close to home Jovelyn was. Even her things that were scattered about, like her ID, her bag, her sunblock, gum, wallet, all of it was discarded so close to her home. Even her body was found so close to her home, it didn't make sense. A lot of neighbors wondered how her neighbors, Jovelyn's neighbors, the same ones that were searching high and low for her, how they never smelled or spotted her remains when she was found 1,000 feet away from her own home. And she wasn't found in like an abandoned field. One neighbor said that the grassy area that she was found, it had some foot traffic because people would walk through it as a shortcut. It's not like a jungle, it's like just a grassy area. And since it wasn't being put to use, some of the neighbors even planted herbs and veggies. Kids would play in that little yard area. Sometimes dogs would play fetch. Even if a stray dog had died there, which has happened before, everyone would have known because of how badly it smelled. I would imagine it's worse with a human. There's even a store from where Jovelyn was found that's 300 feet away. And you're telling me no one smelled anything? No one saw anything? No, I mean, everyone in the area is looking for Jovelyn, and no one smelled something so strange like a decomposing body and thought, it's probably got nothing to do with the missing girl. Like, that doesn't make sense. The family did confirm some of the items found nearby were Jovelyn's, but not all of it. The underwear that was supposedly hers were not hers according to the family, but the wallet, ID, and some of the other things were. Now, there was no way for them to ID her based on appearance because of how her remains were found, but Jovelyn's mom said, "In my heart, I genuinely believe that she's still alive, that she is somewhere out there because I don't know if someone harmed her. In my mind, she's still alive. When I saw those bones, I didn't feel anything. It's as if they didn't belong to Jovelyn." So this further fueled the online theory that whoever was found was not Jovelyn. Netizens suspected that the police planted the bones there so that they could stop investigating this case, that it was some sort of big cover-up. But the police kept going with this. 2 days later, on August 25th, 2022, they instructed Leobert to guide them to where he allegedly buried Jovelyn's jewelry and phone. So this is another odd thing. The jewelry and phone were separated from the rest of her belongings, and they were buried super close to Leobert's house. So either he's a super confident criminal, dumb, or this just felt strange, felt weird. Like, if you think of it from a criminal's perspective, especially if you were related to the victim, wouldn't you want to get as far away from their items as possible? Soon after, what the police believed to be a shut and done case, because, you know, we can have all the theories in the world, but only the killers would know the location of Jovelyn's remains and her belongings, right? And Leo Burt led them there, so it must be him, right? Well, Leo Burt's attorney came out to say that whenever Leo Burt was talking and guiding officers to the evidence, Leo Burt would look at the officer, waiting for some kind of sign or go ahead or some sort of signal. At this point in the case, people didn't really know what to believe. Netizens were even questioning if they had gone too deep down into the conspiracy rabbit hole and they were just trying to create the most insane narrative of things now. People didn't know, are we crazy? Is the police crazy? Or is this real? Because, you know, sometimes things happen that are so sick and twisted, it almost feels like a conspiracy when you start thinking about it. People wanted answers, or at least some clarity. Another person that could have that is Joe Vert, the other person involved in the crime, the other cousin. Now, he hadn't been as involved in this investigation thus far because he was hospitalized for accidentally stabbing himself. A radio show tracked him down in the hospital and asked for an interview. Their aim was to just get to the bottom of the mystery, answer all the unrelenting questions, tell us why did you do it, what happened, tell us the truth. But in reality, all this interview did was muddy the waters even more. Joe Vert was so emotional during his interview, he stated that none of it was true, none of it. Even the accidental stabbing, none of it had to do with Jovelyn.
Hindi ko alam kung anong nararamdaman ko sa kanya. Buhay ko kasi matagal na panahon din ako nasira. Kaya kung saan na yung nagpapakatino ako, doon pa nila ako sasabi sa ng kaso. Na kahit kailan hindi ko pinangarap na pumatay ng tao at maghahasa ng tao.
I'm sorry, what? Then why did you accidentally stab yourself? I confronted Leo Burt about the rumors that he was trying to hit on my wife. I was drunk, I confronted him, and he looked me in the eye, and you know what he said? He got defensive. He said, hey, you better be careful about making accusations like that. And I started getting angry. I got into a fit of anger, and I was drunk. I grabbed the knife. I pointed at him. I demanded he take me seriously. Just answer the question. That's all I wanted from him. And then I end up in the hospital and charged with the murder of my cousin. I mean, I have no involvement in my cousin's disappearance. I loved her. I can't comprehend why I'm even being connected to the case. He talks about how he has a criminal history and yeah, he might have been involved in some shady things in the past like drugs, but this, he swore up and down. I truly had no part in this. I cannot fathom what's being thrust on me right now. This is the honest truth. When Jovelyn went missing, I was at work with my managers. I can confirm that. They can confirm that. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine taking a person's life or even committing such a despicable act of sexual assault. Please, you have to believe me. August 30th, 2022, a few days after Jovelyn's supposed remains were found, a DNA test was released by the police to the public, stating that the remains did indeed belong to Jovelyn. With this, the police formally charged Leo Burt and Joe Vert of homicide. Now, most of the charges did rely on Leo Burt's confession and narrative. The police completely brushed off Joe Vert's claims of innocence and stated that the thing that he said about work, it's just him trying to create an alibi.
What do you mean?
That even raised eyebrows. Exactly what you said. Either he lied about his alibi or he didn't. Like, what does it mean when you say it's an attempt at him creating an alibi? Was he or was he not at work? Like, it just felt like the police were being roundabout for no reason. You could literally just say, he lied, he wasn't at work. But they were like, that's his attempt at creating an alibi. It was really strange that the police kept taking these convoluted routes with this investigation. It felt like they refused to investigate or even entertain Joe Vert's claims and simply focused on what Leo Burt said. And just before Leo Burt was officially taken into custody, Jovelyn's mother, filled with a mix of anger and confusion, confronted him and she screamed and demanded answers. She asked, how could you commit such a crime against your own cousin, your own flesh and blood? How can you live with yourself? Leo Burt turned around and he cried and said that he was coerced by the chief of the city's anti-crime organization, Richard Lygad. He begged his aunt to believe him. He cried out, you know me, you know me, you know that's not me, you know I could never do this, please. I didn't do it, auntie, you have to believe me. I didn't kill Jovelyn, I was forced to take the blame, please, you have to believe me. I didn't have anything to do with it at all. You've known me since I was a kid, you know what kind of person I am, please, I would never do something like that.
Wait, what?
Ako na matakot. Ayun, hanapin yung ano niya, ligad. Yung atin. Yan. Ito. Kuya, ulit.
Oh, yan.
Kasama yan siya?
Pumutok pa, no?
Pumutok pa. Relax lang, relax. Kami, nag-ano rin kami.
Yung nalaman to, basta pagdating doon, nandun na lang yun.
Yung mga butok.
Doon, dinala na lang nila ako doon.
Laser pool.
Tulungan.
She was so taken aback by his words. She was torn between her desire to believe him because she doesn't want to believe that someone she trusted, her own flesh and blood as well, could do something like this to her child. But then there was so much circumstantial evidence against him, and she did think back to all those great moments of Leobert and their family, and it was just so hard to accept that he could have done something like this. She tried to get some clarity. She spoke with him while he was in jail. And later, Jovelyn's two sisters, Jocelyn and Jonalyn, would even go on air with Raffi Tolfo to talk about what was going on with their cousin Leobert. Leobert had alleged that it wasn't just the chief, Richard, that was trying to get him to take the blame. Multiple officers were heavily involved. Allegedly, they instructed him to point at random locations, so they brought him to a field. They were like, point in that direction. And then he would point in that direction, creating the illusion that he was the one that told them where the body was and where the belongings were.
So they were just like using random clips of him.
Mm-hmm. But they just took him to a predetermined spot and told him to point. So he did. And sure enough, her body and belongings were found. And he said that he was gutted and shocked, but also terrified because that just made him look like the guiltiest man alive. Allegedly, Leobert only complied with Richard and the police because they kept threatening his family. The sisters were able to record a conversation with Leobert, and he does in fact seem terrified for his life. He stated how Richard told him exactly how to respond to the questions he would ask, but he also alleged that Richard physically abused him when he didn't do what was asked of him. He sent the sisters pictures of scars and bruises all over his body.
Now, pakipaliwanag sa amin, doon nababanggit yung pangalan ni Ligad at meron pang pinakitang picture. Saan ang galing yung picture? Pwede pakipaliwanag sa amin? Bakit nabanggit yung pangalan ni Ligad doon, ma'am?
Yun nga po, ang sabi niya nga daw po, si Richard Ligad nga daw po yung nagdidikta sa kanya. Kaya po sineche agad namin kung anong mukha at pinakita namin sa kanya. At sabi niya, yan nga daw po yun. Simula unang gabing pagpasok niya sa kulungan, yun na daw nagdidikta sa kanya at nananakit sa kanya.
So, kasama mo ba sa inyong responsibility na kapag meron pong mga suspect na naaresto, kailangan kayo po ay present doon at kailangan kayo kasama sa mag-iimbestiga? In this case, inamin niyo po noong August 22, nandoon po kayo, present kayo, nung ito pong si Leonard ay nasa kustodiya ng mga pulis at kayo mismo nagsabi na nandun si Major Manalo at nandun ka rin. Ano po yung important significance po ng inyong presence doon?
Kasama rin po sa ano ko yun dahil same time ako rin po yung director ng Anti-Crime Task Force po.
Were you called or you were there voluntarily?
Yung doon po sa pag-ano ng cellphone, bali, tinawagan po ko ni Sir Manalo na yun nga raw po, ituturo daw po ni Leobert kung saan yung cellphone.
Sir, noong pong August 22, yung the day na natagpuan po yung bangkay at ito po, si Leobert po ay nasa custody ng mga pulis. Yun po yung tinatanong ko, bakit po kayo nandoon? Sir?
Apa?
Bakit po kayo nandoon? Noong August 22, kayo po ay civilian, hindi po kayo miyembro ng PNP, tama?
Sir Rapi, ako po yung Public Order and Safety Officer din po ng lungsod ng Puerto Princesa, sir.
So kayo ho ay may tie-up o meron ba kayo memorandum, City Hall and PNP na para makialam po sa investigation involving criminal activities? Meron ho bang memo between the City Hall and the PNP? O yung PNP ho ba, kayo po ay ni-request o kayo po ay dinetail ng City Hall sa PNP na pwede makialam, pwede mag-imbestiga, pwede magbigay ng information sa ginagawang crime investigation ng ating kapulisan? Sir?
Hello, sir? Yes?
Kayo po ay isang civilian employee. Hindi po kayo miyembro ng PNP, tama?
Sir Rapi, yung background lang po natin, hindi lang po ito yung first time na nag-obserba po tayo ng kaso dito sa atin sa lungsod ng Puerto Princesa. No? Nagta-tie up din po tayo sa PNP sa iba pang mga kaso.
Okay.
Dito lang po, gusto lang po natin tingnan kasi naging sensation po ito eh.
So kayo po ay kusang bumalik ng puerto from vacation kung saan man kayo galing nung sabi mo kanina para tumulong po sa investigation. At yan po ay kasama sa inyong responsibility na ibinigay po sa inyo ng City Hall. Tama?
Opo, tama po. Parang critic lang po, no? Tinitingnan po kasi natin kasi mahirap po na, alam niyo naman, naririnig natin, very sensational ito. Mahirap
critic.
naman po
Sige
na mabigyan tayo ng maling suspect.
Pero sir, meron ho ba kayong sapat na training na para tumulong sa pag-iimbestiga para yung ginagawang investigation ng police sa anumang klaseng krimen sa kanilang lugar? Were you trained on that aspect in terms of investigation, in gathering information, crime investigation ng PNP? Yun lang po ang tanong ko.
Sir, hindi po. Actually, hindi po ako. Parang nag-observe lang din po ako doon, sir.
The police responded to Leo Burt's change in attitude by stating, "We have his confession where he admitted to committing the crime with Jovert. That is the information we currently have, and we're going to rely on it. If there are claims of additional individuals involved in the crime, we will conduct a thorough investigation into that matter."
Wow, this is so shady.
I don't think
Holy.
anyone was satisfied with that response. It felt like the entire case and the entire investigation, the police just kept taking the scenic, easy route. They didn't even care to investigate. They just wanted to say, oh, well, that's what we have. So even if it's not true, that's what we have. So we're going to stick with it. The lack of transparency, the inconsistencies throughout the investigation made it difficult to even have faith in the authorities. The family ended up reaching out to the National Bureau of Investigations, the NBI, to help assist with the police and getting justice. Honestly, they just wanted another DNA test. I think they just wanted to make sure the police weren't lying and that indeed was Jovelyn's body. I don't think any family could live on comfortably knowing that they were skeptical of something like this, and I think it would just drive people crazy. The NBI started their own investigation parallel to the police, and in the end, the NBI's results were the same as the police. They confirmed it was Jovelyn's remains. It said Jovelyn's family was feeling a mix of relief and sorrow. The NBI experts did what the police failed at doing, which was giving the family a reason on how that happened. They said the weather conditions played a big role. Additionally, they stated the presence of crocodiles in the area could have accelerated her soft tissue decomp. It seems like Jovelyn's family were satisfied with the response. Many people in the public were not. They brought up a few things that didn't track. For example, if there were crocodiles, how come there was no bloodstains in the grass? If you're saying the crocodiles came to consume her remains, there must be traces of either bodily fluids or even tissue left behind, because a lot of the times they'll take remains to a secondary location to consume. But the entire area seemed pretty clean. Another reporter, Tommy Abal, stated, "There is a recurring phenomenon where authorities attempt to conceal the truth by targeting vulnerable individuals and forcing them to shoulder the blame for crimes they didn't commit. They employ tactics of intimidation, issue death threats, instill fear by involving family members if they refuse to cooperate and confess." So a lot of people agreed with him. They stated, none of it makes sense. Even Jovelyn's remains belongings that were found, they looked very dry, like her wallet, her ID. If her body decomposed at that rate, her belongings just looked so fine. Just didn't make sense. It looked like they had been tossed in the grass that morning. There was another moment that stood out, and allegedly during an interaction between an officer and Leo Burt that was caught on tape. The officer asked Leo Burt, "Where's Jovelyn's necklace?" Leo Burt seemed genuinely confused, but not confused in the sense of like, oh shoot, I forgot to hide her necklace, but confused in like wait, there was a necklace? Almost as in like, nobody told me about the necklace. Like, I don't know about a necklace. People took it as maybe this guy has no idea what's going on. Maybe he's being fed information to repeat, but he has no insider information. Everything he is saying, maybe it's just what he's told to say, and when they go off script, he has no idea what's going on because he didn't commit the crime. You know how I said the family seemed to somewhat accept that those were Jovelyn's remains that were found?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that they were believing whatever the NBI or the police were saying. In fact, many of the family members were conflicted on how to handle Leo Burt's claims of innocence now. Some of the family members reached out to a local congressman to help pay for Leo Burt's bail. It's not clear how much the bail was, but the congressman agreed to pay for it, and he said that he has no opinion in the case, he just wanted to help someone. Meanwhile, Jovert took a polygraph on Rafi's show, and he passed with flying colors. Leo Burt did not. So it was kind of a show.
Yeah. Wow. So that fuels the conspiracy even more.
Yes, of like, okay, now there's a conspiracy that only Leobert was involved. He's dragging his cousin into it for no reason. Then there's the conspiracy of neither of them were involved. Or there's the conspiracy of maybe Leobert tested and failed the polygraph because he has been so convinced and so, I guess, mentally abused by the police, he doesn't even know it's true anymore. Because that's what happens. There's false confessions where a lot of criminals start believing in, wait, did I actually do that? The police are saying that they have all the evidence. And they're playing out these scenes, and I can picture it in my head, and it almost feels like I did that then. On November 25th, 2022, the country woke up to news that the court had dismissed charges against Jovert and Leobert. The court stated that they could not establish a direct link between the individuals in question and the crime.
No way. They're freed.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine this was very confusing for Jovelyn's family. Like,
Yeah.
there must be some members who believe in Leobert's innocence,
Then
but still
do they?
want justice.
It's open again, right?
Yes, the case is open again, but it doesn't look like the police are making progress, or at least they're not letting us know if they're making progress. So it does seem like Jovelyn's family, they accept that Jovelyn is dead. They want everyone to accept that she's dead. But it does seem like they still want justice. They have come out with a statement and stated, we do appreciate that everyone still hopes that Jovelyn is alive, and we fully understand why it might be hard to accept, especially since we were only given skeletal remains and nothing more. But the experts provided good explanation and reasoning as to why her bones are left. We should respect this, as they are professionals and they are doing their job. Now, again, I think this part, a lot of people took it as, oh, like now the family is in it with the police, right? No, I think when there's an open investigation, as much as you hate the police for their incompetence, to a degree, the families of victims have to please the police to a certain level in hopes that they will investigate your loved one's death. You cannot piss off the only people that have the power to bring you justice right now. It's kind of with this Howard tragedy, you know, like all the victims' parents, they were still hopeful that the president could do something. So they still, regardless of their political beliefs, regardless of her job in handling the situation, they had to still be nice to her. They still had to talk with her and beg her in a kind manner instead of demanding things from her because she might be the only one that could help. That's kind of, I think, how this situation is. They stated, we're hoping that all of you can respect and accept the truth for our sake and our peace, and so you can join us in praying for Jovelyn. We know the results are hard to accept, but we believe the PNP and the NBI did their job well in conducting the investigation. They went on to thank the media for the coverage and helping and investigating. They ended the letter with, our last wish is that we all keep our minds open and embrace the possibility that Jovelyn is really gone. Let's all learn to accept this and be understanding about the whole ordeal. For now, we may not be able to understand everything about what happened and why it had to happen, but we just need to trust the process and have faith that God went through this with us from the beginning until the end. So it doesn't seem like the case itself is closed, but I have genuinely no idea what to even think. The deeper I go down this rabbit hole, the less I understand about this case. And I feel like I haven't researched a lot of those cases in a while, where I'm like, the more I know, the less I know. I genuinely have no stance on what happened because I'm so confused. And it's just a case that has frustrated a lot of netizens, and more than anything, I think the only thing that I can take away from this case, or one of the very few things, is I think this showcases just how little trust that people have in authorities these days. To no fault of our own, it's just become harder and harder to take the authorities' words for things. I think humans, we just want proof now. And I think maybe the police should kind of learn from that. And it's scary, it's disheartening, and I'm glad that the family was able to find some closure, that they need to move on from all of this, but that is all we have for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please stay safe, and I will see you guys on Sunday for the mini-sode.
Bada bing, bada boom.
The steps are pretty simple. You aim, pull the trigger, and you shoot. And then you repeat. It's pretty standard. The first few times that Johnny is doing this, he's struggling a little bit, but the practice rounds, the more he does it, it's helping him get into the groove. It's helping him understand how to be one with the gun. And now this time it's gonna be so much easier. It's locked, loaded, ready to go. Johnny's girlfriend, Cassandra, is scrunching up her nose in disgust. She's got her arms stretched out as far away from herself as possible, and she's just pouring bleach onto the bathroom floor. Listen, home renovation is typically not the ideal way that couples want to spend their time, but they're about to host this massive party and they need the house to be somewhat presentable. They're scrambling to get all these little mini projects around the house done. I mean, Cassandra has used so much bleach. The bottle is empty by the time that she's done with one bathroom. And now this very strong scent of bleach and whatever else she was originally trying to clean up is so overpowering, it's piercing through her nostrils. At this point, if she stays in the restroom any longer, she's gonna get high on the fumes. But that's where Johnny's gun comes in handy. His caulk gun. Cassandra closes the door halfway behind her. Johnny walks up and he's got this tube-shaped dispenser. He pulls the metal trigger and this thick white silicone-y liquid comes out. I mean, it's basically an industrial form of a white silicone glue, and it's gonna seal the entire seams of the door. I mean, the directions are pretty easy. Aim, pull the trigger, and shoot. The silicone parts, they start flowing out of the caulking gun. He repeats the process across the perimeters of the interior doors. Effectively, he glues the doors of the entire house shut. Every interior door, into the bedroom, into the restroom, he's super glued it so that you cannot open it. Even if you want to get inside, you can't get inside. If you're inside, you can't get out.
Huh, okay.
And the two, 17-year-old Cassandra, 19-year-old Johnny, they're crossing their fingers. I mean, hopefully, none of the guests at the party would be able to smell the two dead bodies upstairs. Not after the bleach, not after they glued the doors shut, right? We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. They are volunteer-based and provide free medical care and humanitarian aid to thousands of injured and ill children in the Middle East. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team of dedicated researchers and translators, and we would also like to thank our listeners for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at RottenMangoPodcast.com. Now, some brief disclaimers before we start today's video. Some names have been changed for privacy for different individuals and witnesses involved, and some statements have been condensed for time. There are mentions of CSA as well as relational violence, and perhaps the biggest theme throughout this entire episode is self-exit attempts. If anyone you know, or if a loved one you know is struggling, or if maybe you are, resources will be linked in the show notes. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. There was something really odd happening in a suburban town outside of Atlanta. In the span of a week, there had been a series of attacks. 3 couples had been attacked in 3 separate homes. Which, you know, okay, maybe the investigators believe that some serial killer is on the loose targeting random couples in homes, but interestingly enough, there are no signs of a break-in in any of the homes. April 2nd, 2017. Couple A is found attacked in their beds at night, no signs of a break-in, the entire house is ransacked, and they are left with their throats slit. 6 days later, April 8th, 2017, couple B are attacked right when they walk into their house. They're sprayed with bear mace. It's like pepper spray, but stronger. It's for bears. They're sprayed with bear mace and beaten over the heads with a metal bat. And then just a day later, couple C is found slumped on top of each other in a bathroom covered, just smeared in blood, unconscious. The investigators working the case, they would find some very interesting things. These were clearly not random attacks. Couple C was found to have been driving couple B's car. So couple C and couple B are connected.
Okay.
Couple C's intimate videos were found on couple A's phone. So couple C and couple A are connected. But how are all three couples connected? And what set off a sequence of events that would kill two of them and almost leave the other four dead? The investigators believe couple C are the ones linking all three couples together. They are the connection. They have couple B's car, their videos are found on couple A's phone, and they had just been discovered by the authorities in the restroom, unconscious, covered in blood. I mean, they're bleeding out. They need to be rushed to the emergency room ASAP, and if they don't make it out, if they don't live, there's gonna be so many unanswered questions. So now all the police can do is wait for 19-year-old Johnny Ryder and 17-year-old Cassandra Borge to wake up. Some adults will say that teenage love is strong because there's a ridiculous amount of hormones that make teenagers believe this is the last love that I will ever feel in my life. Adults will try to tell their teenage kids, no, don't worry, it's because your hormones are going crazy. The emotions are so extreme. There's gonna be other people out there for you. This is not the only fish in the sea. Yeah, well, 19-year-old Johnny does not believe in all of that. He's 19, he's almost 20, and he had found his freaking soulmate. 17-year-old Cassandra. Listen, love is about loving every little part of your partner. I mean, even the stuff that other people might think is just not as exciting. And Johnny finds every little thing about Cassandra so absolutely perfect. Like, it's kind of cute that all of her phone passwords are just 1, 2, 3, 4. She likes it so uncomplicated, but at the same time, she herself is so complicated. She's like this short little 5'3" ball of energy, and you would expect with her short little height, she's not gonna be a fighter. But then you find out that she takes Tansudo. It's a Korean martial arts. She's been doing it for like 6 years of her life, and she knows how to do a knife hand strike, where you strike and break the concrete blocks with the edge of your hand, or like a roundhouse kick, where you can spin your full body, jump up with your foot in the air, and strike something or someone. She even took Shaolin Kung Fu, Chinese Kung Fu. I mean, she's so good at it that she went on these international trips in China to compete in tournaments. Yes. She's
really?
actually very good. And she's just so cool. But then she had to quit. She had to give it all up because, you know, she said her emotions and feelings were all over the place. She wasn't able to sit there and really focus on the movements and be in that headspace that you need for martial arts. And Johnny felt like there's something that he could help with. He could save her from that. To Johnny, I mean, Cassandra's kind of the perfect girl, the definition of a soulmate. And even though they had only been dating a few weeks, he felt like they had been together for a freaking lifetime. He's sitting on the ledge of a parking lot in downtown Atlanta, and Cassandra's right next to him, and they see the whole city. I mean, it's so beautiful, it's peaceful. It's a parking lot, so it's not a tourist attraction. They're basically alone. And for a while, they're talking, they're listening to music. But then there's this moment of silence where they're just taking in the view, and Johnny turns to look at Cassandra. She looks at him, and he just sees this burst of purple around her. And he's like, I don't think I'm on drugs right now, but maybe I am. But I don't think so. It's like an aura, a glowing light orb radiating out of her body, a light bursting out of her, like she's the center of the universe, the core of this parking lot, and the world just revolves around Cassandra. And he's just staring in awe. Of course, Cassandra starts to feel a little bit self-conscious, like, wait, what is it? Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you just staring at me? It's a very intense look. I see purple all around you. What? Purple is a sign of love, and I think this is love at first sight. Johnny is hooked. He knows from that moment, deep down, that moment forward, Cassandra is the girl that he cannot live without. Which is crazy, considering Johnny and his ex-wife just divorced 2 weeks ago, but that's fine.
Did he just met her, or?
Yeah.
Oh, they just met?
Basically. He cannot live without 17-year-old Cassandra.
He's 19.
Yeah.
He just divorced.
Just divorced.
Okay.
The police are standing in front of a white suburban home in the middle of a very quiet neighborhood. It's not even an isolated home, it's very suburban. There's neighbors on both sides of this house. Across the tiny little road, there's more neighbors. I mean, think of a regular neighborhood. But before they can even force their way into this house, they feel like something's not right. And you know caulk? It's like construction glue. It comes in the tube that you push through the nozzle, you aim, point, shoot. Yeah, that white flexible material. The cops are standing there, staring at the front door of this random residential house, and the front door has been caulked shut. It's been glued shut. The police force their way into the house, and it's not looking good. The entire first floor is trashed. There's cigarette butts scattered throughout the living room, the garage, on the couch, partially burnt, which honestly probably a fire hazard, but that's the least of their worries right now. There's prescription bottles filled with cigarette butts just laying around, multiple tubes of caulk just on the ground, likely the ones that glued every single door in this house shut. There's mason jars on the ground. In the kitchen, there's just a mound of fried rice on the floor next to the sink. Not on a plate or in a container on the floor, just a mound of fried rice on the floor directly. There's rotting food everywhere. There's dishes with remnants of moldy food piling up in the sink. I mean, the place looks completely ransacked. The police head upstairs, and some of the interior doors in the house also glued shut, just like the front door. Strange. They break into each of the rooms, and now they understand why. There are 2 dead bodies in 2 separate rooms of this home. In one of the bedrooms, they find a man's body laying on the bed. His right leg is hanging off the bed. I mean, it appears that he had been attacked in his sleep, attacked badly. There's evidence that he's beaten, stabbed, his throat is slit. There's bloody shoe prints embedded onto the bed sheets, indicating that whoever did this to this man hated this guy so much that they physically stomped on him to inflict more injuries.
On him where?
On his face, on his torso area, primarily, where most of the injuries were inflicted. Above the headboard where the man is laying, there's a pair of just bloody handprints stamped onto the wall. The attack was so vicious, there's blood splatter all up on the walls, on the lampshades, on the ceiling. The ceiling fan has blood. It's a very gruesome crime scene. The officers then head to the restroom, where they find another body, the body of a woman, on the bathroom floor. She too has been beaten and her throat has been slit. The door to the restroom had also been glued shut. The entire upstairs of this random, calm, peaceful residential house in the middle of a normal neighborhood is covered in blood. Bloody drag marks left on the floor, blood on the walls. The house the police had broken into was where Cassandra lived. The bodies belonged to couple A, Wendy and Randall Bjorge, Cassandra's grandparents. And left next to Grandma Wendy's body is a little bottle of empty bleach. The day after Cassandra's grandparents' bodies are found, Johnny Ryder, Cassandra's boyfriend, leaves his mother a voicemail. In it, his voice sounds very weak. He's barely audible. "Hey Ma, it's Johnny. I'm crazy. I'm evil." And then he whispers so low that you can barely hear him. "I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm not well. I'm mentally crazy. I'm dying as we speak. I love you. I'll see you later, okay? I love you. Bye."
Hey Ma, it's Johnny. I'm crazy. I'm evil. I'm sorry. Tell Mindy I'm sorry. Tell Karen I'm sorry. I'm not well. I'm dying as we speak. I love you. I'll see you later, okay? Love you. Bye.
What is he asking forgiveness for? The voicemail will be sent right before Johnny Ryder and his girlfriend Cassandra are found unconscious on the floor of a restroom. A few days after they're taken to the emergency room, Cassandra wakes up in the hospital bed. She almost died, and the first few people that she's talking to since becoming conscious again, are detectives. They're asking her what the hell happened in that restroom. I tried to self-exit. The detectives try to ask, "Why would you do that, sweetie? Tell me why." "I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know what else to do, where else to go. I just got really angry and depressed, and I don't know. I just kind of felt like the whole world was collapsing on me."
What happened here?
I tried to kill myself.
Why would you do that, sweetie? Tell me why.
I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what else to do. And then one night I just got really angry and depressed, and I don't know, I just felt like the whole world was kind of just collapsing on me, and I just wanted to end it.
I know you know why. I'm here. I just need to understand why, Cassandra. Talk to me, please. What I can't do, I can't talk to you unless you are being honest with me. Cassandra starts sharing with the detectives the story of how her grandparents were murdered in cold blood. Cassandra sounds like she's in a lot of pain while she's forcing herself to remember all the little details of how she witnessed her grandparents' murder, because she was there when it happened. Johnny, my boyfriend, picked out which knife he wanted. Which one did he choose? It was the sharpest one. It was like the biggest one, and then he started using it on my grandpa, and then we just slit his throat. Pause there.
We?
You said we? Oh, he. I didn't touch my grandpa. I didn't.
Whoa.
Unless you be honest with me.
I wasn't the one who intentionally thought about doing that.
Say it. Once you say it, it's out.
Killing my grandparents.
Back to the night of the murder. It's the middle of the night, maybe just past midnight. Cassandra is in the room with her grandma, Wendy, and Grandpa Randall is asleep in a separate room. They sleep separately. Cassandra is in Wendy's room when she freezes. Wait, what was that noise? She strains to listen, but it's no use because the noise is getting louder. She can hear it. It's like grunting, the sound of a fist hitting flesh. Imagine if you were to punch a bag of meat. It sounds like someone's getting beat up in the next room. That's what it sounds like. Someone is in a lot of pain. They're yelling and the screaming starts, and she knows exactly what she's listening to. Johnny, her 19-year-old boyfriend, is beating her grandfather to death. Cassandra freezes. I mean, what is she supposed to do? Oh my God, her grandpa is gonna die. Johnny is going to kill her grandpa. What can she even do right now? Suddenly, she starts feeling this overwhelming rush overtake her entire body. It's like a tingling sensation. And she turns to her grandma, Grandma Wendy, grabs the tire iron in her hands, and whacks her grandma on the back of the head. A week after the murders, Cassandra and the two other people, they've got bags of McDonald's with them. A few orders of fries, milkshakes, and burgers. They're setting up the little table to get ready to eat family style. They're gonna lay all the fries out. They're putting the milkshakes down, putting in the straws. And Cassandra's telling the two people about how sick of hospital food she's been. Yeah, I bet. I mean, there was one point where I couldn't even eat anymore. Briefly, the two others that are with Cassandra decide to step out for a moment before they start eating. Cassandra glances around. She checks out the room. It's a pretty small room, bare, just a door leading into the hallway. There's no windows. There's no artwork, no paintings, just empty space. She's completely alone now. She looks to her left, then to her right, and then she looks up. And then she looks straight in front of her, where there is a camera pointed eye level at her face. And she just stares into the camera. No emotions on her face. Her face is completely blank, but her eyes are wide, so alert, it almost looks like she's gonna go cross-eyed. Like she's trying to peer into the soul of whoever is watching on the other end of the camera. It's like Cassandra has broken the fourth wall.
For how long?
A few seconds. I mean, it feels like eternity as I was watching it. She's wearing this dark forest green jumpsuit. Her hair is tied up in a messy bun. She looks like a teenager that just woke up. She's got these giant casts around her arms that come almost up to her elbows. Like she's wearing oven mitts and they're tied together. She's got a giant band-aid on her neck and she just stares into the camera. And she's alone in the interrogation room with, I guess, us, the camera. And she stares before leaning down and slowly using her mouth to vacuum up a French fry because she can't use her arms.
Wait, she's keeping eye contact?
No, she breaks eye contact and then leans down to eat it, and she just starts crunching, crunch, 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 and stares into the camera, glances around, then leans back down, vacuums up another French fry, crunch, 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 then another, then she leans down and takes a sip of her milkshake, and then she decides, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. She uses her cast like a giant scooper, scoops up the burger, and just starts eating in silence while periodically staring into the depths of the camera. Welcome to Cassandra's interrogation tapes. Cassandra will matter-of-factly share her side of the story of why she chose to kill the only people that ever cared for her. This is her version of events. There are very few reasons why someone might torture another person. Most of the reasons don't make sense. They could just be sadistic. They get off on the power that they hold over the other party, and the pain that they're eliciting from this person is thrilling. It's exciting. They're getting off on it. Perhaps it's vengeance. Maybe the person that they're torturing has done something so unspeakable, so heinous that even death wouldn't be good revenge. Or, I mean, that sounds like it's just in the movies. The most common reason I imagine to torture someone is to extract information. If you have information that the CIA wants, they might subject you to what they call, quote, enhanced interrogations, aka torture, in most people's opinion. Stress positions so painful that your body is shaking in agony. They'll put you in these boxes, in these contorted positions where every second feels like there's needles sticking into every part of your muscles. There's just nonstop pain. They'll play loud music to the point where you cannot get a single second of sleep. It is so all-consuming, you can't even think straight. Sometimes they use frequencies to do that. You feel like you're losing your mind. You want it to stop. Honestly, you would do anything at this point for it to just stop. Please, just stop it. Sometimes if they're really desperate, they will allegedly waterboard you, so you feel like you're drowning. But they say that there is no greater torture than when you're forced to watch your loved one die. That's why in all the movies, they tie up the heroes' loved ones, and they say, give up that information, or else we're gonna kill this person. It's a torture so vile that I doubt that the CIA would even take part in it, which is saying a lot. Cassandra drags her grandma's bloodied body into the room next door. She's leaving these bloody marks behind, and she joins Johnny and her grandpa. Look, they did not bring a backpack with duct tape, a tire iron, and throw dirty old t-shirts across their mouths to cover their faces to walk out of this house with nothing. We need the safe code. Johnny looks at Cassandra. Can you grab some knives? Cassandra runs downstairs to the kitchen, grabs the 3 biggest knives that she can find, butcher knives, runs back up, hands them to Johnny. What's the safe code, Grandma? They're questioning Grandma Wendy, and they know that she has a safe in her closet, but they need the code to get it. To show her, Grandma Wendy, that they're so very serious about this. They're not messing around right now. Johnny grabs the knife and in front of Grandma Wendy starts stabbing Grandpa Randall in the stomach. Once, twice, 3, 4, 5, more than 5 times. And Grandma Wendy starts pleading with them, her own granddaughter. I'll give you the money. I'll give you my keys. I'll give you anything you want. Cassandra says Grandma Wendy was mumbling through the duct tape, but they could still somewhat understand her. She says, and I quote, I mean, she was mumbling through the duct tape. You could still understand her, but at the same time, you couldn't, you know? Regardless, none of that mattered. All that mattered is Grandma Wendy is about to give her the safe code. And once she gets those magical numbers, she runs into Grandma Wendy's closet to unlock the safe. She clicks in the safe code, enter, the safe unlocks, the door swings open, and there are just envelopes stuffed with cash. Holy shit. Grandma Wendy was not lying. She was telling Cassandra the truth. Cassandra smirks because now Cassandra and Johnny, they're about to be very, very, very rich. In the interrogation room, Cassandra will tell the 2 investigators that she was actually quite shocked at how much money was in Grandma's safe. I go in there, checking out the stuff. I grab the book bag, and I just start stuffing the book bag with everything. You know, like there were envelopes just filled with money. There was probably like $1,000 that we found in that safe that they were just saving.
$1,000?
$1,000.
In envelopes?
Yes. Did you know about that money, or you just found? Cassandra starts smirking a little. And you know, it was kind of weird. Like, she was kind of giving me an idea about it before. My grandma was saying, what if I just gave you $1,000? Would that just make the world a better place? And I'm like, no, I don't want $1,000. So she kept saying that. And then I was like, when I saw it, it was just like, wow, she actually had $1,000 in her safe. Like, that's crazy.
Like, there was envelopes just filled with money. There was probably about like $1,000 that we found in that safe that they were just saving. And
did you know about that money, or you just said no?
Well, my grandma, it was kind of weird. Like, she was kind of giving me like an idea about it before. Like, she was saying, what if I just gave you $1,000? Would that just make the world a better place? I'm just like, no, I don't want $1,000, you know? So, you know, she kept saying that, and then like, when I saw it, I was just like, wow, she actually had $1,000 in her safe. Like, that's crazy.
There are a lot of moments like this in the interrogation where it is such a weird mixture of such an evil crime mixed with such immature, almost childish qualities. She's talking about killing her grandparents, but then she's amazed that somebody has $1,000 in a safe, which, don't get me wrong, is a lot of money, but you cannot flee with that kind of money after a double homicide. It's not gonna get them very far, which, by the way, they're gonna spend it in a full week. But at this point, Cassandra thinks that she is set for life practically. She's standing in front of this safe with a giant smirk on her face. She's emptying out all of the envelopes into the black backpack that they brought along. She runs back into the room where Johnny is watching over her nearly dead grandma and grandpa. They're still alive. She's holding the little book bag filled with cash. Hey, I got the stuff. Johnny nods, turns to Grandpa Randall, and slits his throat right next to Grandma Wendy. They then drag Grandma Wendy into the restroom, and by this point, Grandma Wendy has been beaten within an inch of her life with the tire iron by her granddaughter, but she's still alive, which is crazy, as Cassandra puts it, because she was, quote, beating her head with the tire iron. In the interrogation room, she shows the investigators how she's doing it, and it's just this weird, casual, she's just using both of her arms to swing over. She says, beating her head.
Just beating her head with it.
Does she have a pillow over her head, do you know? Or
No.
would she have a pillow around her head or something? Okay.
Cassandra says when she first attacked her grandma back in Grandma's room, right when they start the killings, she wasn't feeling any sort of mercy or hesitation. She says, I started hitting my grandma, and Johnny's doing his thing, and I stopped hearing Johnny doing whatever, and so he comes into the room, and me and my grandma are in, and he helps me tie up my grandma with the duct tape.
He helps me tie up my grandma with the duct tape, and
how do you do that? Is it just her hands, or?
I got her hands, I got her whole head, and then I got her ankles.
Okay, where her hands, I guess.
It was behind her back.
So just like this?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about anything on her head or neck, or did you?
Yeah, we kind of wrapped the duct tape around her head-ish, so, and then that was it.
What was that for?
Just so then she kept it on.
Oh, okay.
Or just cause.
And you said her ankles too?
Mm-hmm.
Cassandra and Johnny, they tie up Grandma completely by her arms, ankles. They wrap the duct tape around her head just in circles. And after Johnny helps Cassandra tie up Wendy, Cassandra drags her into Grandpa's room. They essentially torture her for the safe code. They kill Grandpa with the knife, slit his throat in front of Grandma, then drag Grandma into the restroom. And Cassandra would periodically check up on Grandma. And she noticed that Grandma Wendy, according to her beliefs, was pretending to be dead, because she could still feel a pulse on her. But Grandma Wendy is not talking, she's not pleading, she's not breathing that loudly. She's just laying there motionless. Cassandra thinks she's freaking faking it. She runs over to Johnny. What the heck, Johnny? She's still alive. Johnny walks into the bathroom, and according to Cassandra, he grabs the tire iron and aims for the top of Grandma Wendy's spine. He slams it into the base of her neck at the top. This is a very fatal injury. A lot of the times, this can cause full body paralysis. It's very hard to survive an injury like this, especially if you don't get immediate medical attention. Cassandra said it was the last fatal blow. The whole situation was starting to freak Cassandra out, not because her boyfriend just murdered her grandparents, but she said it was kind of creepy because she was starting to die, and I think she was scared to die. She shit herself and peed herself. It's kind of gross.
Wow, these kids are sadistic.
And she was pretending to be dead for a while. I would, check up on her, and I would see that she was still breathing, and I'd be like, Johnny, she's still alive. What the heck? And then, Johnny finally, made the, last blow, and it was kind of creepy, because she was, scared to die. She shitted herself and peed herself.
Oh, did she?
It was kind of gross.
Johnny would grab the knife and slit Wendy's throat as well. When they were certain that both of them were dead, they cleaned themselves up, washed all the blood off their faces, changed into a fresh pair of clothes, and drove Grandpa's car to the local supermarket. Kroger. It's like Ralph's. They grabbed something to eat, and they brought it back home to Cassandra's grandparents' house to eat and, quote, just kind of chill there. During interrogations, it's best for police to get answers on any questions that they might have. There's a few unanswered questions that are bothering them about this case. One being, why the hell did they find a gallon of milk in the trunk of the car when they arrested Cassandra and Johnny? Why do you just have a gallon of milk in the trunk of the car? What the hell are you doing with a gallon of milk? What are your plans? There was a voluntary study done of people, willing participants, volunteering to get sprayed with pepper spray. They rated their discomfort on a pain level, 0 through 10, a 9.6 to a 9.7 out of 10. But at least they were pepper sprayed. There is actually something that hurts so much more than pepper spray, statistically twice as more painful. Bear spray. Which makes sense. One netizen said, pepper spray is meant to stop, maybe cause decent irritation to a human being, while the other one is meant to stop a freaking bear. To give you context, an average human weighs 150 pounds and can sprint what? An average of 12 miles per hour? The average bear weighs anywhere from 600 to 1,000 pounds and can charge on average 30 miles per hour. Whoa. If bear mace is supposed to knock a half-ton grizzly bear onto its butt, I mean, the effect that it's gonna have on a human, tenfold. Redditors who have accidentally sprayed themselves with both pepper spray and bear spray said, trust me, bear spray is so much worse. It's designed to nuke everything in a 30-foot radius without prejudice. Doesn't matter if you're a bear or not. Some said it's absolutely unbearable. It's so strong, so debilitating that it can be used as a self-defense tool, I guess. But if you accidentally get it in your face, first it's the shock. You're disoriented. That lasts not even a full second before the excruciating, intense, impossible to deal with pain. You want to rip your face off. The stinging of the eyes, the watering, the pressure in the throat. One netizen said, anything associated with mucous membranes, it feels like you're being singed with fire. Eyes, nostrils, sinuses, lips, tongue, soft palate, tonsils, all the way down your throat, even your heart. All of a sudden, it feels like it's ablaze. Like somebody threw ground up glass shards into your eyes. But the worst part is when you instinctively take a big gulp of air from the shock of the pain, and it feels like the bear spray gets into your throat and the hacking and coughing is gonna start to the point where you feel like you're about to throw up your insides. One person said, the pain and torture was so bad, I was so desperate for any sort of instant relief. I didn't have time to fill up the bathtub or even to hop in the shower. I dunked my head into the first body of water I could find. My toilet. It's that painful. Another netizen stated that a gunshot to their thigh was less painful than getting a face full of bear mace. A friend who witnessed someone getting sprayed said, his face looked like a giant red emoji, like a giant red beach ball. His eyes were just these tiny black weeping slits because you can only see the eyelashes.
Whoa.
They said even if you think you're over the pain, after a few hours, if you think the symptoms have subsided, you're very wrong. Hours after, a singular tiny droplet of sweat drips into your eye and the pain starts all over again, and this can last for days. After impact, you might be dealing with redness, burning of the skin, temporary blindness. You will be in no state to do anything, let alone even just lay there being in pain is unbearable. Melissa and her boyfriend are both college students, so they have to find any opportunity that they can to spend time together after a long day of classes. And that particular night, April 8th, they decide to grab some takeout. They're gonna head home to Melissa's and eat together. And maybe they'd watch their favorite show or they'd just catch up with each other. They don't really know yet. They pull into the driveway of a very quiet neighborhood, unlock the front door of Melissa's parents' house, walk in, and they head straight for Melissa's room. So far, nothing is amiss. Nothing is out of the ordinary. They open the door to Melissa's room, flip on the bedroom light. The entire room is ransacked. It looks like a disaster zone. Everything is thrown out. The closet looks like a tornado has gone through it. All of her purses have been rummaged through as if somebody took them, turned them upside down, and just shook everything out of them onto the bed. Her jackets are thrown around. I mean, what the hell is going on? Melissa's already on the phone dialing 911 when she turns around and sees an orange mist inside the house. What the hell is going on? And then it hits. The stinging in her eyes, the overwhelming sensation overtakes her entire body. Her face feels like it's on fire, like somebody is pressing her face down onto a hibachi grill. Her eyes feel like someone is squirting a combination of lemon juice and jalapeno juice straight into them. Melissa and her boyfriend are squinting through the pain, coughing, almost gagging. And Melissa sees through the orange haze a girl that looks familiar, but she can't really In this moment, she can't really connect the dots in that split second. And this girl is coming at her with a baseball bat in her hands, ready to swing straight at Melissa. The bat smashes into Melissa's back. She tumbles over onto the ground. Not even a second later, she feels the bat crashing down onto her head. She can practically feel her skull pulsing as blood starts to flow out. And the girl is just standing there in the orange mist. And then she kicks Melissa straight in the stomach. If Melissa didn't want to throw up before, she definitely wants to throw up now. She looks over and her boyfriend is being attacked too. There are two people coming at them. One at Melissa, one at her boyfriend, going at their heads, beating them, spraying bear repellent straight into their eyes. Melissa and the girl are struggling to gain control over the bat. Melissa tries to grab it from her, but she kicks Melissa in the head. Then she tries to start stomping on Melissa's stomach. Melissa slides away from the attacker, and honestly, she's probably pissed now. She's bleeding, she's burning, she's so done with whatever is happening. So she reaches up and yanks the girl with the bat by a fistful of her hair and yanks her around by her hair. She grabs the bat mid-swing, wrestles it out of the girl's arms, and then turns her attention to the attacker hitting her boyfriend. The attacker releases Melissa's boyfriend, and Melissa hands her boyfriend the bat, but the attacker lunges for it, and now all four of them are tangled up in this mess, yanking each other around in different directions, trying to get control of this bat. Melissa's boyfriend almost has it, but suddenly he lets go, lets the attackers have the bat. Instead, he grabs a glass beer bottle and threatens the attacker. "Stop. Let us go." The attacker responds, "I will never let you go." With nothing to lose, considering the severity of the situation, Melissa's boyfriend brings the beer bottle up and slams it down onto the attacker's head, shattering it. For a second, it feels like there's a power shift. But the attacker is eerily calm. He just had a beer bottle shatter on his head. He's staring at Melissa and her boyfriend, but he's talking to the girl that he came with, the girl that attacked Melissa. "Go get the hammer." The fight continues and only stops when the door opens and Melissa's mom walks in. And Melissa starts screaming, "They're trying to kill me! They're trying to kill me! Help, Mom, please, they're gonna kill me!" The two attackers run off, leaving Melissa covered in blood. She would need 7 staples to close the wound on her head. She had welts all over her body from the bat, and her boyfriend has injuries all over as well, with a badly chipped tooth. I mean, the unsettling part of all of this was, it was only Melissa's second time meeting her brother's girlfriend, and she attacked her with a bat. And it was kind of freaky because whenever her brother's girlfriend Cassandra hit her, there was something in her face that just appeared so calm. And as for the other attacker, Melissa didn't even recognize him anymore. Her brother Johnny.
What?
She just remembered them fleeing, running out of the house, and that girlfriend Cassandra was wearing a shirt that read, "Good vibes only." Do you think you can pinpoint when a plan starts falling apart? Because for Cassandra and Johnny, it's now. They're both wanting to pour milk straight into their eyeballs. They're coughing up a storm, driving off from Johnny's family house. I mean, the original plan was to get Johnny's family one by one. They would, quote, wait for each of them to get home and knock them out one by one, aka kill them one by one. But obviously, that didn't happen. So they steal Melissa's car and they're fleeing the scene. And it's Cassandra's second time meeting Johnny's sister, which is kind of a bummer to her because it doesn't seem like they're going to be getting along anytime soon. So truly, nothing is going according to plan.
Wait, so they are getting hit by the bear okay.
I imagine
That's what I thought.
I imagine they thought it was like pepper spray. So pepper spray, as long as you're not in a windy area, it comes out in a consistent stream because you're trying to get an attacker. You don't want to get any witnesses or people on the side. You don't want to get passerbys. But with bear spray, it's very hard to estimate where a bear is going to attack. So it's a mist. It's a fog.
So they're getting hit too.
They're covered. Johnny is covered in bear mace and it's stinging his entire body. He's going to get Cassandra to go buy a gallon of milk so that he can go take a, quote, milk shower to ease the stinging. But the biggest downfall of this plan, the single biggest mistake is they left their original car that they had driven to Johnny's house. During the attack, the car keys had fallen out. They were misplaced. And as they're leaving that rush, that's something that they don't have time for. They don't have time to look for the damn keys. They just took whatever they could find, which was Melissa's car keys. They flee in Johnny's sister's car, and they just leave Grandpa Randall's car parked at the house. When Johnny's mom calls the police, they come to take their statements. They run the plates on the car, Randall Bjorch, which is interesting. there was a wellness check request out for him and his wife, Wendy. About a week ago, April 2nd, 2017, relatives of Wendy's had called the police station requesting a wellness check, stating that their 63-year-old sister and her husband, Randall and Wendy, were not picking up their phones. They were sending text messages, but it just didn't sound like them. It was very odd. They suspected that somebody else was impersonating them and sending text messages from Wendy's phone. The police had gone to their house, but because they don't really have a special reason to break in to perform the rest of the wellness check, this is the first call. The last time the family heard from them was a day ago. They just leave. But now they have a very, very good reason. They're gonna force their way into Cassandra's grandparents' home. Back in the interrogation room, Cassandra tells the two detectives that truly nothing is going according to plan now. What was the plan? Okay, so the plan was that we were both gonna get both of our families. But first we got our grandparents, and that's when we went over to Johnny's house and we attacked his sister and her boyfriend because he wanted to kill his family too. But it didn't work out at all, it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, so the reason why we stayed in town was because the plan was we were going to get both of our families. That's why...
Hold on, what?
Okay, so the plan was that we were both going to get both of our families. But first we got my grandparents. Then that's why we went over to Johnny's house. And we attacked his sister and her boyfriend because he wanted to kill his family.
Okay.
So that's like, we stayed in town for a couple days because, we wanted to get some money, we wanted to get ready to leave, and then that plan just going over to his house kind of just like, it didn't work out at all. It went downhill from there.
But how did the plan even start? Who started it? And this is according to Cassandra, because Johnny does not want to talk to the police. Cassandra and Johnny were at the park. This is before they killed anybody, before they killed Cassandra's grandparents, before they attacked Johnny's sister and her boyfriend. Cassandra had run away from home, and they were living in Johnny's car. Well, Cassandra says that she didn't run away. She said she was kicked out. I don't know how much of that I believe, but her version of events goes, I was out chilling with Johnny and my other friends, but then she came home from curfew. Grandma's asleep. Grandma wakes up hearing Cassandra come in, and she storms out of her room and just starts losing it on Cassandra. And Cassandra says, my grandma just got really mad at me, saying things like, oh, if you don't like it here, we're just gonna find somewhere else for you to stay. She just said that out of the blue. She got mad for some reason. And so I was just like, if you're gonna find another place for me to stay, I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna find somewhere else to go. And she kept bringing up stuff about my mom. And, she kept saying things like, I could easily send you back to your mom's house. I don't know. It just got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. Cassandra really does not like the alleged threat of being sent back to her mom's house. Now, side note, we don't know if this is even what Grandma Wendy said to her. I highly personally doubt it. With everything I could find about Grandma Wendy, it feels like she wanted to protect Cassandra at all costs against whatever she had been experiencing back at her mom's. About a year and a half before Cassandra and Johnny's plan, Cassandra's grandparents filed for emergency custody over Cassandra from their own daughter, Cassandra's mom. From the records that I could find and the grandparents' neighbors' statements to the police, allegedly Cassandra was potentially being sexually abused by her stepdad, and her mom was allegedly not doing anything about it. A neighbor said, this all started and came up maybe a year and a half ago when I just let Wendy tell me and she wanted to talk about things. Wendy and Randall had found out about Cassie being sexually abused by her stepdad, Sean. And so at that point, they filed for emergency custody because Amanda, Cassandra's mom, wasn't doing anything about it. And then over the past, I'll say, 3 weeks, I was over at their house and Wendy had told me that Sean and Amanda were being investigated and they had bought all new computers and phone and devices so that they didn't leave any evidence behind, but that Cassandra had written a bunch of information down, a bunch of journaling information. And she said, Wendy told me, what I thought happened in my head was nothing compared to what actually happened. And I just never really, I didn't ask questions. Beyond that, I didn't want Wendy to talk about it unless she wanted to. I kind of felt like it was maybe more of a CP thing. I don't know. It was happening under everybody's nose, and once Wendy found out, she filed for custody for Cassandra. Then there were stories that Cassandra had to take out a restraining order against her stepdad because he starts stalking her at school and, quote, checking her out of her classes. Cassandra said that she had to start online school because her stepdad would go through the classes, literally prowl through the campus trying to find her and check her out. Which is interesting that Cassandra has this insanely tense, painful relationship with her mom and her stepdad, but she kills the two people in the world that tried to help her and protect her from them, her grandparents. The police had gone through Wendy and Randall's house and they saw that the entire place filled with pictures of Cassandra. Clearly, they love her. The investigators, of course, they pick up on that and they ask Cassandra, was your mom part of the plan? AKA, were you gonna kill your mom next if we hadn't caught you? Was your mom part of the plan of killing them? Yeah. Yeah, no. But I wanted to. We did discuss it, but Johnny was like, we can't waste our time on them. And I was like, okay, but I wanted to. Johnny kind of told you not to. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what's going on with my parents, you know? Like, I mean, we drove over their house the other day. They have new cars, you know? I don't know what guns they have in their house, you know? I don't really, she says you know a lot, by the way.
So she's not shaken up at all right now?
No.
She has no like emotional problems?
She's
calm, collected?
She keeps saying you know as if this is a very normal reaction. Very normal response. She's almost trying to get the detectives to nod and agree with her. Like, yeah, of course we know. But no, Cassandra, we don't know. I don't really know what's going on in my parents' house, so yeah. You didn't know what you would have been met with, is that what you're saying? Whereas your grandparents, you knew it was kind of a safe bet to kill them, correct? Exactly.
Oh.
Because she hadn't been at her mom's house in a while, she didn't know where they had their weapons. She didn't know if they had new guns, what kind of cars they drove. It was very hard to, I guess, stalk them. Back to the original plan though. Cassandra said that she came home after hanging out with her friends. Her grandma starts randomly arguing with her, fighting her. And it's after this argument with grandma, she just leaves, goes to stay with Johnny in his car. They're sleeping in there, just driving from one place to another. And she said, we're just all over the place, really. Just trying to find something to do. Just keep, you know, having something to do. We didn't want to just sit around and do nothing. We would find people to chill with, go to the mall or something. They end up at the park where they're sitting, staring up at the trees, and according to Cassandra, Johnny turns to her. Are you afraid? What? Are you afraid to die? No, are you? No. You know we could run away together. Wouldn't that just be the dream? Yeah, I guess it would be, Johnny. Would you like to kill your grandparents? What? Why? I don't know, I mean because of everything. Cassandra said that she understood. Johnny knew everything about her situation with her family, everything that she had gone through, and all she wanted to do was get away from everything, move on with her life, and things with her grandparents had gotten so bad recently. She had broken her grandfather's ribs. She was on probation for assaulting her grandparents. I mean, so much has happened. Which is why at the park, the two decide to start over with their lives, start fresh, get away from everyone and everything. And the few problems that they were facing were, one, Johnny's ex-wife. Cassandra said, he got married to like this crazy bitch, and then now she's like saying that I'm stalking her when I've only met the girl like twice. But thankfully, she lives out of state, so they don't really have to deal with her anymore. Not that there was anything to deal with to begin with. It seems like Johnny's wife had no care for either of them. But other than that, their only other problem was they need money and they need their family members dead. The reason for needing them dead is very unclear, because I imagine they could have gotten the money without killing them. But it does appear that they didn't like the fact that their parents or their families did not like them being together. Which, side note, the reason they need the money is so that they can move to Pensacola, Florida and start a new life, which is about a 5-hour, 32-minute drive from Atlanta, Georgia. And that's not a far distance to flee after a double homicide. But Cassandra says, it was just somewhere where we could escape reality. The detectives ask, escape reality or kill grandma? Cassandra responds, no, not kill them. Just kind of like escape from everything, you know? Just start my life. I don't know. Like I just wanted to move on from everything, just my family. I couldn't be around them anymore just because everything we've all been through, it's just so much betrayal.
This kind of just all I've been wanting to do for such a long time, which is...
Escape reality or kill grandma and grandpa?
Well, no, not kill them. Kind of just like escape from everything, you know,
Okay.
Just start my life, you know, like...
So they're not that smart either. They don't have some crazy plans.
No.
Just all vibes.
All vibes, all super gluing doors. $1,000 to flee a double homicide.
Yeah, there's not even like crazy motive. Just evil.
Just plain evil. They solidified it in their minds. This is what they want to do. how they want to go about it. It's their master plan. They start thinking it actually might be simpler than we originally thought. Everything they could possibly need is already in Johnny's car. Cassandra would poke fun at him. It's like a Mary Poppins car. So much stuff in there. You think, surely he's not going to have a tire iron in there. And then he does. So the plan is settled. Kill anyone who stands in their way of being together. Both their families hate them dating, and for that, they would have to die. The plan is kill Cassandra's grandparents, then Johnny's entire family, his mom, his 2 sisters, they all need to die. 5 people are on their little hit list so that they can run off and be together and start a fresh life. They'd only been dating for 2 months at this point.
Wow.
Romeo and Juliet is probably one of the most well-known stories in the world. Boy loves girl, girl loves boy, their love is forbidden. No one else believes they should be together except them. It's the 2 of them against the world, and they'll do anything to stay together. It's quite dramatic too. They want to stay together even if blood is shed, even if their own blood is shed, even if that means they need to die in order to be together. Back in the interrogation room, the detectives have more questions. There is a week-long gap between the time that they murder Cassandra's grandparents in cold blood and when they attack Johnny's sister and her boyfriend. The investigators want to know exactly what they did in that week. Is this part of the plan to wait a week? Did you schedule that in? What were you spending the week doing? Preparing for the next attack? Is that it? Cassandra said they didn't really have a plan. They were just taking it, quote, day by day. So for a week, they just stayed in her grandparents' home. They slept, ate, ordered Chinese takeout, went to Steak and Shake, blew $200 at Zoomies, the skateboard clothing store, went on shopping sprees, spent the entire $1,000 they just got from the safe, but also spent every last dime in grandma's bank account, did drugs, filmed intimate videos on grandma's phone in the house with their dead bodies laying upstairs.
What?
They brought all their sheets and blankets downstairs into the living room because they didn't want to sleep upstairs with the dead bodies. They spent a week in that house.
Not fleeing.
No.
That's so weird. I don't know. Is that like more scary or it's less scary? Because they're not trying to get away, I guess. They're just hanging out there. Like they don't care or not afraid about the consequences.
I think that's more scary. They're also not emotionally disturbed
Right.
by their actions if they're able to stay in that house.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And it's not even strangers. I think it would be, I don't think it's understandable, but I think it would make a little bit more sense in most people's heads. Okay, if they're strangers, maybe they just killed them for a place to stay.
Yeah. And
which
1
is
week,
not acceptable, but.
Yeah, and 1 week is a long time and they didn't even have a moment of realization.
And the smell is bad. The caulk and the bleach is not going to fix it. So it's a constant reminder of their actions, the scent.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes in interrogations, the detectives will ask suspects questions that they know the suspect are going to lie in the answer. But they ask it anyway, because the point of the question is not to learn the truth. It's to catch the suspect in a lie. The investigators are curious. Did you call some people and say, hey, if you want to come over, not for a party or anything, but just like, I got some money, grandparents are out of town, do you want to come over? Cassandra says, nope. I would just tell people like, hey, you know, like I have a free crib, but I wouldn't have people come over. If you guys are trying to chill, I'll come meet up with you. I wouldn't let them go to the house. Besides, Cassandra tells the 2 officers she only has 2 friends because, quote, I don't like chilling with a lot of people because I don't really trust a lot of people. Regardless, Cassandra tells the officers that they would just go and meet up with their few friends outside of the house. Her and Johnny agreed that having someone over at the house was a big, quote, no-no. The investigators are nodding because, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, but the detective brings out his phone and starts playing Cassandra a video. Come take a look at that. Cassandra's body tenses. She leans forward. Her eyebrows are all scrunched together. She's staring at his phone. That's you and him, right? Cassandra doesn't speak. She just gives a short nod. That's you and Johnny at your grandparents' house? She doesn't respond. He replays the video and she just leans down further, sticking her head closer to the phone. Sure looks like it, like the living room at your grandparents' house. Cassandra's voice is briefly, oddly robotic. How could that be possible? Who's taking that video? She starts aggressively shaking her head. No, that couldn't be at my grandparents' house. There was no one at my grandparents' house. So that couldn't have been at my grandparents' house. The detective is no longer playing around with Cassandra. They're no longer burger-eating buddies. He points to his phone. Well, I didn't shit that out. That's what I'm saying. Who? I mean, it sounds like. Wait, let me watch it again. That must have been before.
There was no one at my grandparents' house, so that could have been at my grandparents' house.
Well, I mean, I didn't shit this out. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Who, you know what I'm saying?
Cassandra tries to look the detectives in the eyes to show them that she's being honest. But one mistake, the other detective points out. Well, it couldn't be before because your grandparents don't like Johnny, and he wasn't at your house much. He didn't go to my house at all. I mean, Cassandra catches her second mistake.
But your grandparents didn't like Johnny, so when was he at your house much?
Like, he didn't go to my house at all. Like, I mean,
that couldn't have been at my house. That had to be somebody else's house because we had no one at my house. It was just me and Johnny. She's staring at the detectives through her lashes. Her eyebrows are raised, her eyes are big as if she's trying to convince them. But what is she trying to convince them of? They have the video in question.
that couldn't have been at my house. That had to be in someone else's house because we had no one at my house. It was just me and Johnny.
I mean, you've been honest with me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The video in question shows Cassandra sitting cross-legged on the living room floor of her grandparents' house. She is in the middle of rolling a joint. Johnny is right next to her, leaning in. His gaze is just transfixed on her, like he can only see her in the entire room. It honestly might have been cute, or one of those couple videos, oh my god, look at the way he looks at her. But of course, hindsight is 20/20. He looks at her with puppy dog eyes, does not take his eyes off her face. Even when she breaks eye contact, which is the majority of the video so that she can continue rolling her joint, Johnny is just staring. People have a lot to say about you, like you. I don't listen to those people though. Like, I love you. You kick ass. The clip cuts.
People have to say about you, like, I don't listen to people, like, I love you. You kick ass.
It's a super short clip, or at least the one that was made public was. But none of the video content is actually that important, other than the fact that Johnny and Cassandra are rolling a joint in her dead grandparents' house. This video is taken after their murder, and someone else is taking the video. Someone else had been at that crime scene. A few days after Cassandra's grandparents' murders, one of Cassandra's best friends receives a Snapchat from her asking her to come over. Hey, my grandparents are out of town. They went to Florida for a few days. I've got an open crib. Plus, they left me like $1,000. You want to come over? That's not happening. First of all, it's 8:30 p.m. She can't just go over. She's already laying in bed. She's 17. Her mom's never going to agree to it. But more than that, something in her gut is telling her not to accept this invitation. Do not go to Cassandra's house. The whole situation is just so weird. It didn't make sense. Why would her grandparents leave her that kind of money? They're also not the type of people to just randomly pack up and go on vacation, especially not now when Cassandra is going through a lot, running away, hanging out with Johnny, whom they hate. The investigators, they know this already. They've interviewed all of Cassandra's friends, and by some ironic miracle, almost every single person Cassandra invited over for a massive rager at the house after her grandparents' murder rejected the invitation. In the interrogation room, the investigators break her down. We got a problem, man. As you know, I'm a cool dude. So is she. The detectives are talking to Cassandra. I've been doing this a lot longer than you've been alive, okay? So I'm not a bullshitter. I don't know what those DA investigators, what type of, they are, how many times they talk to you, but I'm cool as shit with you as long as you're cool as shit with me. They're really trying to play into this 17-year-old. They sat there and ate McDonald's with her.
Do you think it's working though for
Yes,
Cassandra?
absolutely.
So she actually wants that kind of relationship.
It's almost very bizarre. The way she's so callously talking about her grandparents' murder is so cold. You wouldn't even expect that from a full-grown adult of how heinous and evil it is. But her yearning and desire for the detectives to like her is almost childlike. When children will say anything to try and fit in.
Yeah. Wow.
It's very bizarre. The mixture of that, something so evil, and then this very bizarre childlike quality is unsettling. He says, I'm cool as shit with you as long as you're cool as shit with me. But once lying and stuff like that starts, I've got a problem. I believe that people were at that house, okay? Unfortunately, you're in this. There's no saving face right now. I'll be honest with you, dude. We heard a conversation that took place in there where somebody was about the smell, and Johnny's like, no, dude, it's just sewage. There's a sewage problem upstairs.
As you know, I'm a cool dude. So is she, okay? I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. Okay? I'm cool as shit with you if you're cool as shit with me. But once lying and stuff like that starts, I have a problem. I believe that there were people at that house. Okay?
If it was probably only some
I mean, I just want no if or anything like that. Unfortunately, you're in this. Okay? There's no saving face right now.
Cassandra would never admit to this, but it was later confirmed by the people that were over because she invited a bunch of people over. Only 2 people came. Her drug dealers.
So the drug dealers came and they took videos of them rolling a joint.
Yes. Now, none of them knew that her dead grandparents were upstairs, but they could smell something disgusting in there. Cassandra and Johnny tried to play it off as a sewage issue, that they couldn't flush the toilet, and Johnny took a big poo and tried to flush. It didn't flush, so it had just been sitting there for days.
Now you're saying it smells like shit. What did it?
I didn't think anything of it because...
Did you ever ask him, like, why does it...
I did, and Johnny said that it was just because he hadn't flushed the toilet.
During the interrogation, Cassandra states that Johnny just starts randomly telling her to pour bleach all over her grandparents' bodies to help with the smell, and he starts randomly gluing the doors shut inside the house. She said, he went in my garage and found, I don't know what it's called, like the caulk, yeah, and then glued the doors. She tells the officers she didn't know what the point was. He didn't tell her why he was doing it. He just grabbed it and started doing it. And she was, quote, just like, yeah, okay, you got it, and just watched him. But later she would admit that she invited people over. They wanted to throw a party. And in order to do that, she would have to pour bleach on her grandparents' body to hide their decomposing smell. And Johnny caulked the doors shut so that they could have people over.
And then you guys went back to the house, and then did you do anything to the doors, or?
Johnny did. He glued the doors.
Okay.
He went in my garage and found what's it called? I don't know.
Caulk.
Yeah. So yeah, he did that.
Okay. And what was the point of that is what? Just.
He just did that. He just decided to do that. He didn't tell me. I just watched him and I was just like, okay. Like, you got it.
Just to give you a recap, they kill her grandparents, attack Johnny's family, get sprayed with bear mace. Johnny's mom calls the police and they're on the run. Jason opens the door to his apartment and he's face to face with Johnny and a girl named Cassandra. Shirtless Johnny. Johnny's eyes are bloodshot. It looks like he'd been crying. Well, no, it looks worse than that. There's just red marks all over his face and body. Do you mind if we come in, Jason? My mom and I fought again. She pepper sprayed me. Jason lets Johnny and his girlfriend Cassandra in. Jason had been friends with Johnny since they were in middle school, but it was a little strange. He was just showing up unannounced. They hadn't really been close since middle school. They naturally grew apart. Jason stayed with their original group of friends, and Johnny started hanging out with this different group, doing drugs. They never really had like this big fight or anything, but they just didn't fit together anymore. But now Johnny has showed up explaining to Jason that he got into this huge fight with his mom and he cannot think of anywhere else to go. This was the first place that popped up into his mind. He lets them in and they end up spending the night. The next morning, it does kind of feel like they're all back in middle school again. Johnny's talking to Jason's mom while she's preparing breakfast for everybody. They've always had quite a close relationship. Johnny's cracking jokes with Jason. Jason's drinking coffee on the balcony. He goes out to walk the dog, and that's when he starts noticing something's not right. Parked directly in front of their apartment unit, and Jason knows just about every car in this parking lot. There is a new car, but the plates are temporary, meaning a neighbor did not just buy it or lease the car. If that was the only odd thing though, it wouldn't be that alarming. However, the car is suspiciously parked directly in front of Jason's unit, practically staring into the ground floor windows. And it happens to be a fully blacked out Suburban SUV. It's strange, but what is Jason gonna do about it? He just takes a mental note of, oh, that's a little bit strange, but it's not something that he can really investigate. Eventually, he makes his way back into his room when all of a sudden, it's a voice booming into the unit. It feels like it's coming from the sky itself. Unit 184, Johnny Ryder, come outside.
Like a megaphone?
A megaphone. Jason's like, what the hell is going on? Then it happens again. Unit 184, Johnny Ryder, come outside. It is 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Is Jason asleep right now? Is he dreaming? Jason walks out into the living room and he looks down and there are red dots on his body and on the walls.
Wait, on Jason's body?
Yes. Because usually they'll cover the whole Like
Laser-
snipers, lasers.
Oh my goodness.
This is real. Very, very real. He's got to get his sister and mom out of here. He has no idea what's going on, but he knows that they got to leave. As they're about to step out, he sees from the corner of his eye Johnny grabbing a knife from their kitchen and walking straight towards Jason and his family. What the hell is he about to do? Is he about to stab them? Johnny walks straight up to their faces, leans in closer and closer, and then gives Jason a hug. I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry for everything. I love you. I wish I didn't bring this onto you and your family. He drops the knife, leans over, and says the same thing to Jason's sister and gives her a hug. And with that, Johnny lets them walk out of the unit. Walk straight into a swarm of SWAT teams that circle them. Jason said it felt like he was walking into basically every cop in the county. He found out after leaving his apartment that his childhood best friend had tried to kill his sister and her boyfriend, and that he and his girlfriend had murdered both of her grandparents. And now, with Jason and his family gone, the two of them are trapped inside of this apartment unit. With SWAT teams outside, police shouting their names, threatening to break in. They're cornered. If they're gonna go out, they're gonna be arrested. If they stay in, how long is that gonna last? They can't just sit there like ducks waiting to be arrested, so what the hell are they supposed to do? I would say that the most popular group within the police force are the canine dogs. But second to them, also with 4 legs, are likely the explosive ordnance disposal devices. They're basically RoboCops. They're robots that specialize in going into dangerous crime scenes to figure out what's going on. They're programmed to neutralize explosive devices, and they most commonly are named Spot and Roscoe, like dogs. They can see, hear, basically sense things around them and respond accordingly, but their most valuable feature is their expendability. They're completely disposable.
What do they look like? Is it one of those like do they look like a dog or?
It looks like a steamer, a clothing steamer, like a tripod. And it's all controlled by the SWAT team from a remote controlled joystick. This is what they send into Jason's apartment. The cops are not taking any risks on this one. They both know Cassandra and Johnny are armed and dangerous. They can't risk sending in humans or their dogs. This is the perfect situation to test out the robo-dog. They send it in. They start maneuvering through Jason's house. They're spinning. The camera is rotating as it advances, looking for clues on where they are. Are they planning something? Are they planning on bombing someone? They don't know anything. On the screen that displays the camera feed, the authorities watch as the robot moves through the empty apartment and advances down the hall and comes towards a door. And immediately they are alarmed because there is a stain on the outside of the door and it looks like blood. Johnny, Cassie, say something. There's a microphone on it. Radio silence. Nothing.
Johnny, Cassie, say something so we can see that you're okay.
They have to be in there. The officers have no idea what they're about to walk into. Did one of them turn on the other? Did they harm each other? Did they harm themselves? What are they doing in there? They use the robot to swing open the door, and slumped on the tile floor of the restroom in each other's arms, soaked in a growing pool of blood, are the bodies of Cassandra and Johnny. They had tried to self-exit together. Authorities rush in and rush them to the hospital. A lot of netizens liken Cassandra and Johnny to be a sick Romeo and Juliet couple. Not so much objectively, but maybe the narrative that they probably felt themselves. Nobody wants to see us together, so we have to kill them all. Our love is stronger than all. We will die without each other.
That's what she said?
That's what netizens feel like they felt. But Cassandra would later tell the investigators at the park when they were planning these mass murders, serial killings really. Cassandra claims Johnny told her, "Let's be Bonnie and Clyde." He said that to you? Yeah, I was like, okay. An interesting part of this interrogation is the detectives ask if she's seen the movies, and she shakes her head no. Of course. You have or you haven't seen the movies? Of course I have.
While shaking her head?
Yeah, aggressively shaking her head no.
That's weird.
The other detective says, "Oh, I'm just saying, I'm 29 and I haven't seen the movies." Yeah, my mom was really into old movies, so when I was a child, I used to watch a lot of oldies.
And he was like, "Let's be Bonnie and Clyde."
You said that?
Yeah. I was like, okay.
That's what I first said when, because I'm the one that got called out to the scene initially, and that's the first thing that came out of my mouth. So.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Have you seen the movies?
Of course.
You have or you haven't?
Yes, of course I have.
Of course.
You're too young. I didn't
I'm
think.
29 and I haven't.
Thank you.
Yeah, my mom was really into like old movies, so
Okay.
as I was a child, I used to watch